recording.
All right.
Thank you, Marusha, and we can continue. Sorry, Anna, for the interruption.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, as you already know, we're going to be talking about the fundamental principles of sports nutrition today. If there are questions, you can stop me during my lecture. That's completely fine because there's going to be a lot of content to cover, and it might be easier if we just do it on the spot when you have a question. But of course, if something arises afterwards, we can have some discussion after the completion of the lecture. So, what is the plan for today? Our goal is to know how we can use nutrition or how we can optimize our nutrition for performance and also for health. Because performance and health are connected, and without proper health, we cannot have optimal performance. And we can optimize both by proper fueling, hydration, and also recovery, which can be improved by nutrition. So key topics that we're going to cover are energy, macronutrients, and timing of those. I'm also going to briefly talk about Rett syndrome. It's a disease and it's quite a big topic in sports medicine nowadays. It's not only for elite athletes, but also for recreational athletes. So I think it's important to realize what that is. And then, of course, we're going to mention hydration and a little bit about supplements, not too much. So first, I really like to start my lecture by discussing how important nutrition actually is. This is my favorite quote from my professor when I started to study nutrition. And it basically says that, without even with excellent nutrition, you're not going to be the best athlete. But by making mistakes with nutrition, you can never reach your full potential. So you're not going to be healthy enough to exercise. You're not going to be in good enough recovery to get all the benefits you can get from exercise. So this is the role of nutrition. It can really allow you to have proper recovery and be properly prepared for workouts. So that's why we have these recommendations for athletes from clinical sports nutrition. So not only factor for health, but also you can optimize your exercise. So not going to go into details here, but we often talk about nutritional strategy when it comes to nutrition science. Because it should be really individualized. So it has to be adapted to you, to your needs, to your sport. For example, if you're doing a marathon or a 10K, nutrition can be a little bit different, of course. But also with proper nutritional strategy, we can really improve these adaptations to all this physiological stimulus and stress, because exercise is stress. And then with proper nutrition, we can really get the most out of our exercise. So when I tell you that running or exercise is stressful, what do I mean by that, right? So as you can see on this picture, exercise of any kind, especially if it's quite intense, it will elicit many physiological changes in the body. We all know that your heart rate goes up and your blood goes to your muscles. And even from a nutritional point of view, it's very important to realize that with high intensity exercise, your intestines will have lower blood flow. It will be increased metabolism, but lower blood flow. And that's why we have to be careful what we eat, especially before and after exercise. But yeah, a whole variety of other processes also occur, and really have to have proper nutrition to be able to adapt to all these processes, to all this stress. Because as you know, if there's too much stress, we're not gonna get better. We're just gonna overtrain. We're gonna become overly tired. So we're gonna go into burnout or something like that. But on the other hand, a little bit of stress is necessary for us to improve, to get better, and so on. So nutrition here really helps us to support all these adaptations to exercise and also to prevent possible negative consequences. So we are all aware that nowadays there's so much talk, so many experts or so-called experts about nutrition. So really got to be critical where we get our recommendations from. Maybe it's not the best idea to really listen to all these influencers on social media or some posts that are just sound really nice and promising, but actually they can be quite even harmful. So really be critical and try to get as much valid evidence and recommendations based on some proper scientific literature. And you have to realize, as already mentioned, that nutritional strategy has to be made for you. So it has to be tailored to your needs. So it depends on the sports. Here, for example, running, it's very different than, I don't know, figure skating or something else. And then based on your age as well, you are still young, you burn a bit more calories than some older athletes. Gender and so on. Also, if you have some health issues, that also has to be adjusted for. And then, of course, all of us have different daily life stresses. Some of you cycle to work or to your studies and so on. So we have to adjust our nutrition to that as well. And then lastly, we can monitor our nutritional strategy by biomarkers. So for example, if you continue to improve with running, or if your body composition gets better, these are usually good signs that you're doing something right. Okay, so now let's focus on nutrition as it is. So nutrition, sports nutrition, they have the same basic principles. The key is to provide your body with sufficient energy or with optimal energy. Because on the other hand, also too much energy is not going to be the right answer, because then we assemble a lot of excess fat storage, for example. On the other hand, low energy availability can have negative health consequences, as we're going to mention later. So after that, macronutrients, it's very important to know which are the key nutrients and how to time them relative to our running practice or even competition. And then we go on to specialized sports nutrition, such as sports drink, gels, and so on. And finally, supplements are the least important, but still, nowadays it's quite a big topic among recreational elite athletes, so I'm going to briefly just mention that. As I mentioned, energy availability already on the base of this pyramid. Energy availability is basically what stays in your body after exercise based on how much you put into your body with food. So we have to have enough for all the normal physiological processes, for example, thermoregulation, growth, reproduction, immune system. Because if there is not enough, we can have problems. So this is what we often calculate when we work with athletes, and it's an important indicator if this athlete is doing well or not so well with their energy intakes. Because we are all now aware of the concept of low energy availability in active individuals, and what are the consequences. So in low energy availability, there is not enough dietary energy intake based on how much we exercise. And that's why we can have then some negative consequences. And these are the consequences. This is the main one. We are excessively tired. We cannot recover properly because we don't have sufficient energy and nutrients for that. But also other things can happen because our body starts to conserve energy because there is not enough input of it. And we see that a lot also in people who are trying to lose weight. When they eat less, their body, their metabolism slows down to conserve energy. And then you can also have problems from that. But also, once people on diet start to eat normally, they usually gain more than what they lost. So that's also one of the problems that we get with low energy intakes. But in this case, athletes, it's not necessarily even that they are trying to lose weight, but sometimes, especially with running and endurance sports, you can have very high energy expenditure. If you're training for marathon, that can mean even multiple hours of training, and that energy expenditure is quite intense. And then, of course, some athletes are trying to achieve the weight, and they're doing some diets, and they're trying to be slim and so on. But also, there can be lack of knowledge because they think they have to do the intermittent fasting or something that is very popular nowadays. But it's maybe not the best if you're training hard for your goal. And then what we all face on daily basis is that sometimes we basically cannot get the meals that we need, so you have to plan. And you have to know what you need for training or for competition to avoid low energy availability. So what can then happen and what we see it's a real problem among athletes, not only professional athletes, but also recreation athletes, if this is going for too long. For example, if you start training hard now for a marathon in October, and you're not eating enough, you can develop REDS. REDS is a syndrome called relative energy deficiency in sports. And it's a disease that can happen because of low energy intakes for a longer time. Not going to go into details, but I just want you to be aware that it exists. This is the official definition. It was presented by International Olympic Committee in 2014, and it's getting quite well recognized. And we realize it's quite a problem. This is how it looks like. Everything becomes tough. There can be some more injuries. There can be some more colds because our immune system is down. Our muscles are not functioning properly, cannot support the joints, or tissues are not doing so well. This is how it looks in practice. You can also look up some more about it. Here, I'm not going to go into details, but just so you know, this can be quite a complex problem, and we are really trying to prevent that. Also, this for sports consequences, obviously, if athlete is not healthy, they cannot improve in their sports either. And the red flags, just if you notice that with somebody else or with yourself, just be aware that this can be related to REDS, especially women who don't have menstruation. That can be a problem. Some coaches, some athletes still think that it's normal for women, for athletes who are training hard, they don't have their periods, which is absolutely wrong. And runners often also suffer from stress fractures, so meaning having some injuries without actually having a big force that would break the bone, but the bone density is injured because of this disorder. Okay, so now let's really go into nutritional part. This is why you're here today. We're gonna first focus on the intakes of overall energy and also macronutrients, of course. These are just some main recommendations. First of all, it's important to have regular meals. If you're training for an event such as a marathon or 21 or 10K and you're training regularly, then you also need regular meals. Don't skip breakfast, don't skip dinner. It's important to have proper nutrition and intakes throughout the day, especially this time before, during, and after training. That's the most important part. So energy intake should be adjusted according to your daily training, to your daily needs, and you should plan. For example, when you're traveling or when you're traveling to competition, especially, or when you have some periods of heavier training. For example, if you take a week to go somewhere to train, that can happen. Then you have to plan a bit also in terms of nutrition. And that's already mentioned around exercise. That's when it really matters. So we're gonna really mention that. All right, I just saw something. Okay, I just saw the chat was something, but it's not for me. Okay, let's move on. So these are the macronutrients. I'm sure you all already know them, so I'm not gonna really explain what each macronutrient is, but I'm gonna tell you about the recommendations for all of them. So let's start with carbohydrates. These are really the most important when it comes to running performance, and you should be really careful that you get sufficient amounts, especially before, during, and after exercise. So these are some recommendations for daily ingestions. Here you can see it's quite a big variety of what suggested intakes are. So this is per kilogram of body weight, 4 to 12 grams per kilogram body weight. And then during exercise, of course, it's also important, especially if you're training for more than an hour at the same time. Then you have to, then it's really recommended to have some intakes during exercise. And then, of course, after exercise, it's important to replenish your stores and to have sufficient energy intakes. So really, carbohydrates are your fuel. That's the main thing you have to remember. And the more intense the exercise, the more carbohydrates are important, because for walking or for low intensity exercise, also fat gets used, but for high intensity exercise, it's really carbohydrates. So these are the recommendations based on how much you're training per day. And here you don't have to go into these details. You don't necessarily have to calculate how much you eat per day, but just so you get an idea that really you have to adjust, especially carbohydrate intakes based on how much you're training. So if you're training a lot, you should, for example, double your intake from a normal, or in comparison to a normal day. And also, you have to realize that not all carbs are the same. So not all carbohydrates have the same metabolism in your body. For example, simple carbohydrates that we're all a bit afraid of because of the health perspective, they're actually quite a good source of energy during exercise. So those, for example, white bread, cereal, white pasta, even some Coca-Cola sometimes can be completely fine before exercise because they're easy to digest and they're a good source of energy for your exercise. I mean, cakes and so on, you have a lot of fats here, so it's not the best, but just so you know, there's a difference. And then we have complex carbohydrates, which are also essential to eat, of course, but those should be maybe ingested either after exercise or a few hours before, but not like an hour or so before, because these are more hard to digest. They have more fiber, and your intestines are not going to be as happy with it. So it's not really a good idea to eat a salad and then go for a run because you're not going to get enough energy out of it. And also, you can have some stomach issues because of all the fiber content. And then, as I already mentioned, low carbohydrate intake can be problematic, especially if you're training hard. There can be some also mental problems because of low carbohydrate intakes, because also our brain is heavily dependent on carbohydrates, especially on glucose. But also other things can happen if we don't eat enough carbohydrates and training heavily. So one is increased risk of injury, as already mentioned with rats, but also increased risk of infection because our immune system is also very heavily dependent on carbohydrates. What we also know from studies is that low carbohydrate availability around exercise can lead to worse absorption of iron from food. So also chronic iron deficiency can be a problem in endurance athletes, and we see a lot of that in practical sense. It's a very common issue we have with especially women athletes, but also men athletes are not immune to iron deficiency. And of course, because of all because the brain is not happy, you're also gonna feel like you're trying harder, you're not enjoying the run as much because you're really low on fuel. So yeah, for exercise, for better enjoyment of exercise, it really makes sense to also eat sufficient carbohydrates. And here, I'm not encouraging you to overeat, but just to have sufficient intakes, at least around exercise. When you're at home on a couch, you don't have to eat white bread, but around exercise, then that's a good time to do it. Just so we are clear. And yeah, also, as I mentioned before, low energy availability can actually become much more of a bigger problem with low carbohydrate intakes. And we also have figured out the mechanisms which can lead to that. I'm not gonna bore you with this, but just to know that cortisol, so a stress hormone, here is a big factor that can lead to other changes and make the whole situation worse. So just so you know. Now we'll move on to proteins. So proteins are very popular nowadays in sports nutrition, among recreation athletes, you name it. But they're not everything. You have to combine them with carbohydrates to get the optimal result. Also for muscle mass building and also for exercise that it is. It's really important to combine it with carbohydrates. But it is of course important to have sufficient amounts of protein. The recommendation is to eat smaller doses actually of protein during each meal in the day. So disperse your intakes, and especially it's important to have sufficient amounts around the time of exercise. And then around training, you can do some simple protein like yogurt or cottage cheese, some like low-fat cottage cheese, and whatever like sits well with you, but not some heavy steaks or anything like that. And yeah, we all know that proteins are really necessary for muscle building. That's why I added some of those meals that I really like. Okay. Similar to carbs, we have to know that with protein, it's not all the same, but there are different sources in this case. You all know there's some plant-based protein, there's some animal-based protein, and it's all okay, but we have to realize that with plant-based protein, we have to be a bit careful how we combine different sources of protein, because many of those are incomplete. So they don't have all the essential amino acids. These are the amino acids that your body needs from food sources because they cannot, I mean, the body cannot synthesize it on its own. So we need to get it from other sources. Otherwise, we're gonna break down our own muscles to get those essential amino acids, this is not something that we want usually. So yeah, for those who eat meat, it's very easy to get sufficient amount of protein and all of the essential amino acids. Whereas with plant-based protein, we have to know a bit of this just nutrition or different sources to know how to combine it, and also how not to eat too much of fiber, for example, which can be quite tricky sometimes. So for the sake of simplicity, I eat meat and other animal sources because just it's too much for me. But it's possible. It's possible. We know that we all have heard of, for example, Djokovic, who is or was vegan, but he has a whole army of chefs and nutritionists to help with his nutrition. It's not for everybody. But then, as I mentioned, proteins are very popular nowadays. You don't need that much. You also don't need 50 grams at the same time. And I don't know, Bounty used to be a really nice candy, and now it's becoming all protein. And it's a bit funny how this all is moving. We really have all sources of all different types of protein products nowadays. Yeah, so be a bit critical. You don't need so much because we are often, when we do analysis, we see that a lot of athletes are really crazy about protein, and it's usually not harmful. Um, I mean, there can be some more dehydration because of too much protein ingestion, but usually it's not harmful. It just then, if you eat a lot of protein, you probably don't eat enough of other stuff, for example, carbohydrates, right? So we don't need to overdo proteins. Now, fats are, of course, important. They have many functions in our body, but it's not the main source of energy for athletes. Especially when you're training hard or run competitions, you should try to really maybe lower your fat intakes because they promote fullness, as we said already, and they also slow down digestion. That's why they're not recommended before exercise. But other than that, yeah, it's still good to eat some. So don't go zero fat. That's also not so smart. But really try to focus on quality fats. So quality fats are especially these unsaturated fatty acids. You probably all heard of that before. What are the good fats, the bad fats? And the bad fats are definitely these fatty acids that are in all these processed foods. We really try to avoid those as much as possible. But then others, this we try to limit, but we cannot really do without because there are in so many different foods. And those are that we should focus on, especially these omega-3, because omega-3 fatty acids are really hard to get enough in our diet. And they're really beneficial for health, for multiple perspectives, for our brain health, for our cardiovascular health, so for your heart and blood vessels, and so on. Also, olive oil is very healthy, and all this plant-based oils. So really try to focus, especially in omega-3, also omega-9. And why do we emphasize this omega-3? Because omega-6 is also good, but we really don't usually get enough of omega-3 in our nutrition. So this is how we usually eat. We should eat more like this. This is based on research, so we know that average person does not get enough omega-3. So it's actually maybe quite advisable to take a supplement. I'm not a huge fan of supplements, but omega-3 is just one of those micronutrients that it's really hard to get in sufficient amounts, and it does have quite some benefits. So if you do get omega-3 supplement, also make sure it's a good quality one, not something that's bought in a supermarket, because yeah, I'll mention later why that's maybe not such a good idea. Okay, so now we move to hydration. Where am I on time? Still okay. So just as a basic principle, during the day we should drink about approximately 2 liters, but the real recommendation is 1 milliliter per kilocalorie that you eat. For example, if you eat 3,000 kilocalories, that's then 3 liters, right? Not 2 liters. So the more you eat, the more hydration you also need. But then also, you should not forget that we need to replace our fluids that we lose during exercise. So how much we lose really depends on how long we run, for example, what's intensity, how hot and humid it's outside, that's a big factor, and also how well trained you are. The better you're trained, the less you usually sweat. But that comes with training. So it's not maybe at the beginning. So at the beginning, we have to be careful to drink enough. Usually people on average lose about 1 liter per hour of training, but it could be more or less. So if you want to know, you can also weigh yourself. So you weigh yourself before workout and you weigh yourself after workout. For example, if you go for a run for 1 hour, and then you see how much you lose in that 1 hour. And that's usually with sweating. So it's a good information to have. And this is then just some general recommendation. About half a liter to 750 mils of isotonic sports drink per hour. And the rest we can try to replenish after the workout. So here it's maybe a bit of a trick because not all of drinks are equally good during exercise or just in general. During the day, water is great. During exercise, I would really recommend sports drink. You can even make your own sports drink. It's not that hard. You can find many recipes online. It's sugar, salt, and some kind of flavor that you like. And then energy drinks, they are usually not recommended. I would advise against energy drinks. We have to know that there is quite a big difference between energy and sports drinks. So energy drinks, especially, they have stimulants. So usually they're high in caffeine. They can also be very high in sugar. Obviously not if they're sugar-free version. But we see that a lot of young people are using energy drinks, and they can also lead to insomnia, for example. So inability to fall asleep, and then you fall into this cycle that you're dependent on energy drinks. And also usually there's too much sugar, and it's also not great because this is hypertonic, whereas other sports drinks are isotonic or even hypotonic. So this is not a really good sports drink, and we should really try to limit the amount of energy drinks we consume. On the other hand, sports drink, they have carbohydrates, so sugars, they have electrolytes, so salt, and they can be really helpful during exercise for your brain, for your muscles, and for your rehydration. So we should really know that these two are not the same. So during running and especially during competition, it's important that we try to prevent dehydration, especially in the summer. If you have some competition in the summer, we should look for our urine if it's enough, if we're not hydrated well enough. It should be quite bright, so not dark colored. It shouldn't be strong smelling. We also have to know that if we're not peeing at all, it means we're not drinking enough. And there can be, of course, other signs and symptoms because of dehydration that we should be aware of, and we should prevent that if possible. This is just based on your weight. So if you lose a lot of weight, you can also assume that you're quite dehydrated. This is from swimming because some runners say they cannot get their drinks and so on. But I always say it could have been harder. For example, in swimming, this is long distance swimming. This is how they get their hydration during competitions. So in marathons, it's actually quite nice. I mean, there can be quite some crowd, but it's not as bad as this. All right. On the other hand, I also want to emphasize that you should not drink too much, especially not too much water, because a lot of, especially recreational runners, are drinking too much water during their runs. And that can lead to something called exercise-associated hyponatremia or water intoxication. And there have been deaths, multiple deaths, because athletes were ingesting too much water during runs, especially these longer runs. And it's really tragic if a young person dies because they drank too much during marathon, and this can be preventable. But just so you know, these are the risk factors. So over drinking is the first one. During marathon, it's not normal that you gain weight, but those people were drinking so much that they actually gained weight during exercise, not lost. Also, some research is showing that slimmer athletes, that women are more at risk. Also, if they're not trained properly, and so on. And slow runners, so those who take marathons for 5, 6 hours, they're also more at risk because they have time to walk and drink and so on. But also some other factors can be at play here. Okay, so to finalize, we're just gonna have the synthesis of all these recommendations and then practical advices. We're not done yet, but just now I move into the second part. So this is the first thing that I want you to remember, and I really like this picture because if you imagine this is your plate, you can really see how you should adjust the proportions of carbohydrates or protein on your plate based on how hard you're training that day. So if you have a long run or multiple runs, you should really predominantly eat some carbs, and there should be like white rice, white pasta, white bread, so nothing too complex, nothing too whole grain, and so on. In every case, there should be some lean protein on the plate and some vegetables and fruits. And then we should, of course, adjust the amounts based on how much we're training. And here, if we're doing some easy training or if we're trying to lose some weight, then we should focus more on this complex carbohydrates, on whole grains, for example. And of course, also emphasize more vegetables and more fruits. Even maybe some more protein can be useful in those periods to prevent muscle breakdown. Okay, and this is just my version of examples to show you what could be good before training. This is maybe very specific for Slovenia, but it's like this baby food, basically porridge that we like a lot, and it's perfect, basically food, perfect meal before going for a morning run, for example, because it's very easy to digest. It's just this cereal, but ground up or something like that. And then we have some milk rice or something similar, or some white bread with jam. Cornflakes are great. Just be careful because not all cereal is the same. Some of them can be quite fatty, especially some granolas have a lot of fat, and that's maybe not the best. Also, oatmeal can have quite some fiber on the other hand, and some athletes like it, but not everybody can handle it. So make sure you know that it fits your stomach. And then, like as I said, fruit yogurts are great. They usually have a little bit more sugars than plain yogurt. And then bananas and other simple fruits, that's also great. And then during exercise, that is very important, especially for longer events. If you're running for less than an hour, then it's not so important, especially if you're doing a 10K and your plan is to go under an hour. You should be fine if you just have a little bit of sports drink during the run. But if you plan to do anything longer than an hour, then you should really train your strategy for the race. So you train now what you're going to eat at the competition. That's very important. So this is basic recommendation for recreational athletes, and you should adjust those intakes based on how trained you are, how intense you train, and so on. And you have all these options, so sports drinks, gels, bars, whatever works for you, whatever you prefer. But really, it's important that you do train your intestines, because your gut is like a muscle, like any other muscle. It gets better if you train it. So trying to eat something during a workout, like a gel or a bar, and then slowly build it up to those 60 grams, because that's not easy for everybody at the beginning. And then you should have no problems during the competition. This is a really nice chart showing that longer durations of exercise require more carbohydrates. And if you plan to do a marathon, so usually that's longer than 3 hours, you can definitely go at least up to 60 grams per hour, maybe even longer, even more if you can. It's not for everyone again. That means 3 gels with 30 grams of carbohydrates per hour. So like every 20 minutes, 1 gel. But that's really a lot, and you have to train for it. Like all these professional cyclists, they eat around 100 grams or even more per hour. But they're obviously very well trained for that. And don't worry too much about this multiple transportable carbohydrates. It's quite advanced, so I'm not gonna go too much into details. But yeah, these are about the ratio of fructose and glucose. And usually for these longer events, it's good to have a ratio of glucose and fructose, like 1 to 1 or 0.8 to 1, something like that, because it absorbs better from your gut. So, if you're asking what is the best, it doesn't really matter. Sports drinks, bar, gels, it's all good. This is from the research that I've done based on this, as long as you train for it. And maybe check, for example, what do they have at Ljubljana Marathon, which types of gels or drinks they have, and then try to train with those, so you're used to them already. Because often they have these stands, and then you can try those, so you're gonna be well trained for those already at home. So yeah, here you can see it's all the same. And then after exercise, it's also important to have recovery meal to replenish your carbohydrate stores, so glycogen, and to recover properly in terms of muscles. So that's why you need the protein, and all this is good again. This was my favorite recovery meal, so some chocolate milk and this bread with cheese. I'm not sure that you have that in your country, but also any other like stuff. This is also something with cheese, and then yogurts. Really, whatever you like, as long as it has some carbohydrates and protein within an hour of exercise, just for this rapid recovery. And also rehydration is important to replenish the fluid that you lose. Some research has shown that you have to replenish at least 150% of what you lost during exercise. So, for example, if you lost 1 kilogram during running, you have to drink 1.5 liters to really get to the starting point. And almost all athletes want to know, what about alcohol? Can I have a beer after running or after cycling? That's a big topic. And for some of them, that's a big motivation to run. But we all have to be aware that alcohol can mess up your recovery, can interfere with your sleep, can impede your protein synthesis. But this research was done with quite some alcohol intake. So also, I mean, one beer probably not gonna harm, as long as you properly eat and properly drink, so non-alcoholic drinks. So just be aware of that it's not ideal, but of course, one beer not gonna harm. If you do more, you can have all these problems. So that's just the research, but in practice we see everything. And then nutrition for competitions, another important chapter. So yeah, eat faster, run faster. That's usually a good motivation. Maybe not during the run, but before the run. But still, yeah, it's important to really have good nutrition for competition, especially because competitions is usually when we're a bit more nervous. So we really have to make sure that we don't do anything new, we don't experiment, and so on. So the day before competition, we shouldn't obviously train very hard anymore. But if you do shorter competitions, up to 90 minutes, for example, You don't really need to do any carbo loading, which is quite popular for endurance exercise. But yeah, just some good carbohydrate intakes, some rest activation, and that's about it. And then for longer events, so for marathon, for example, there have been this classical carbo loading protocols, so supercompensation of glycogen. And you don't really have to go into details here because nowadays we know that there is really no point in doing some extreme supercompensation. It is completely okay if you just emphasize carbohydrate intakes a few days, like 2, 3 days before the race, and reduce fat intakes. Because I mean, otherwise, you know, you don't need too much fat. You also don't need to eat crazy amounts of food the days before, but just focus on carbohydrates, and that's about it. And then on the day of competition, if possible, it's good to have a big meal a few hours before. If not possible, have a smaller meal and then some additional carbohydrates intake during in the hour before, or especially during competition, of course. But here it's really, really important that you avoid fat, fiber. Some protein is okay, but don't need to do too much. So something that's easy digestible. And really nothing new, no experiments on the days of competition. This is another nice diagram showing how, so gram per kilogram, how much carbs would be recommended in the hours before. So it's either this or this or this or this. And these all are good options. Yeah, and just to mention, if you like this nutrition science, this is an excellent source because it has really nice summaries of different research. And I really like to use it because it shows so nicely all these concepts. Okay, and then in the hour before, you probably don't feel like eating anything, but it's still good to have at least some small meal of carbohydrates. So it could be a gel, it could be a snack like a banana or 2 bananas, whatever, or some juice, some simple carbohydrates are very, very, very recommended. Be aware that there can be some hypoglycemia, so low blood sugar in some people, but it's usually not a big problem. But it can happen, just so that you know that it can happen, and there are ways to deal with that if you have that issue. So what can go wrong during marathon? Many things. That's why it's important to have good nutritional strategy. For example, gastrointestinal problems are very, very common. So that's why we are really emphasizing to avoid fats, to avoid fiber, and so on, especially on the day of the race. And then, as you said, dehydration, overhydration, both we try to avoid. So really try to stick with that 500 to 750 per hour. And then also getting enough energy. So with gels, sports drink, snacks, whatever works for you. And okay, some other problems can be also there. Muscle cramps are sometimes related to nutrition, but usually not. So all these myths about bananas and magnesium for muscle crampings, that's not really supported by science. It's more of a popular opinion. Okay, and our last thing, the supplements. Do we need them? And then why and which, and what are the possible dangers? Because, we have so many nowadays of these various supplements, and it's really hard to sometimes realize what's useful, what's absolutely useless, and what's possibly dangerous even. For example, fat burners, we know that people have died from fat burners or they fried their liver, and there have been so many problems with that. So be careful with fat burners. So as already mentioned, supplements are on the top, so they're the least important when it comes to sports nutrition, but also there can be problematic. Not only they're least important, they can also be problematic. And there are different reasons why they can be problematic because there are several risks. So obviously some do not work. Some have something written on the label and inside it's actually different constitution. Some ingredients might not even be listed on the label because you have to realize that supplements are not medication. So they are not as tightly regulated. The market is different, and there's a lot more freedom for production. So we have quite some bad experience with some low quality supplements because there can also be some contamination, and then athletes can even fail their doping tests. I mean, I know that's more for elite athletes, but just we know that some ingredients can actually be harmful. Some like steroids, for example, in pre-workout mixtures, it's very popular. If they promise you this amazing results, be very, very, very skeptical about it. And also waste of money. Most of them are a waste of money and waste of energy and low quality and so on. That's why you shouldn't buy them in supermarkets. If you do it, go to a proper store, either pharmacy who have legit supplements, or some nutritional store which with good brands, so quality brands of supplements. Quickly through categorization. So specialized sports nutrition is sports drink, energy bars, and so on. And we use them when we cannot cover our needs with normal food. So we say food first principle, but not food only. If we cannot get enough carbohydrates during exercise with a sandwich, because it's not practical, of course, we're going to have energy bars and gels instead. And then next one, medical supplements. If you have some kind of deficiency, for example, iron is very common. If there's a high risk of deficiency, like vitamin D, for everybody, it's recommended to take vitamin D in the winter. That's one of the few supplements that everybody should take.
Vabbè, te non serve in realtà. Scrivo Antonio.
Hello? Sorry, I thought there was a question. And okay, there's some other also supplements that can be indicated in certain situations. And then we have the last category. These are the ergogenic supplements, so to improve performance. Those are also very popular. You all know caffeine. And there are a few others that are supported by science, but they are really more for this serious elite athletes, and especially once you have optimized nutritional strategy already. If you want to know and learn more about supplements, like you're interested in using them, for example.
Antonio, please mute yourself.
Antonio doesn't hear us.
Maybe Marusha will do this because she's taking the control.
I'm almost done, so it's no big harm done. But, this is just to show you where you can find legitimate information about sports supplements. This is a website. You can click on the PDF later on the link, and you can see the categorization, the protocols, what are the potential benefits, and so on. So it's really useful website. Right. This is my last slide. Just take-home messages, you know. This is just before last slide. What are the most common mistakes in marathon runners? So first, not having a plan.
Let's just have a quick pause. Let's just have a quick pause, and maybe Antonio will hear us. Antonio? No. Oh, he has the message? No. Well, let's try to go on.
Him as a admin, you can mute him.
Sorry?
You can mute him as an admin. You can mute him.
Yes, of course. I can. Yep. Let me just find him. Thank you.
Produzione sia di video,
I don't even understand.
sull'atto, diciamo, visual. Quello lo curo molto bene. Vabbè, allora parti dal nostro gruppo. Scrivimi. È che finché si hanno realtà piccole e non avviate,
Yeah, I don't know how to.
È complicato capire che visione si sta. Però se a giugno a inizio giugno abbiamo consolidato il.
Oh well, what should I do? Should I continue or Okay, now it worked.
Yes, I managed to mute him now. Yeah,
Okay.
I had some technical problems, so it's fine now.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. So here I'm not sure you heard me, but this is a really nice source if you're interested more into supplements, because we're not going to go into details here. But it's a really nice website, also having some infographics and guidelines for athletes and for practitioners. So if you have any questions about supplements and which are actually supported by science and which are not, and what are the protocols, here you can find basically everything. And then, yeah, just to summarize basically, and keep in mind that it's important to have a plan before marathon and to execute that plan also already during your workouts. So when you practice for running for your competition. And then also, if something doesn't go so well at the competition, don't worry about it. Just be flexible and use common sense. If you, for example, cannot find the perfect gel, it's probably all fine because usually they're quite similar to each other. And most important, don't experiment. Don't try, for example, a very cool new supplement on the day itself, or some new dish, for example. So that's really important because we all made mistakes about that. And then just to summarize at the end, we learned that nutritional strategy should be adjusted to your daily needs. So based on what you're training, based on your schedule, we should try to avoid low energy availability. We should have sufficient, especially carbohydrate intakes around exercise. That before and during, of course, exercise and competition, we should try to avoid fats and fiber. And hydration is important, but also don't overhydrate. And supplements, be critical of them, but some of them can be useful. And then practice, practice, practice. That's really important. All right. That's it from my side.
Well, thank you very much. It was really beautiful to hear and really a lot of interesting information. I believe that students will read several times more the presentation and the topic is really important for all that are participating in sport and especially in endurance sport. So Anna, Karin, thank you very much for this really beautiful presentation. And if anybody has some questions, of course, we have some more minutes you can ask, and we are here to try to
I
answer.
see there's in chat. How about proper protein intake in runners with IBS syndrome? Yeah. So how to avoid, side effects of high protein intake. Yeah, with IBS, it's there are recommendations for that. I know there are, but you should really test what works with you and what not, because it's still quite individual. So even everybody with we say irritable bowel syndrome. So even those people who have irritable bowel syndrome, they have different tolerances to different foods. So it might be good to be careful about it, especially try to eat protein that are not very high in fats and not very high in fiber, because that can increase how upset your intestine is. So some either low fat, like milk products, or even some lean chicken, for example, during the meals. You can even when you're not when you're on the go, for example, you can try some of those high protein yogurts or puddings, whatever works for you, because it's really individual. It's quite difficult, I mean, to give specific instructions for that. Really try a bit and see what works with you. I hope that's good enough of an answer. Of course. Blush. Blush has his hands up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so how is it, for example, for, let's say, a runner who wants to not maybe only get like a good 10K time or anything, but maybe to lose weight? How is it with them? You said you don't want very low energy availability. So, I mean, to lose weight, you have to go into the deficit. So how do you approach that problem, I guess?
Yeah, I understand. So, because we have a lot of that, of course, in sports, especially like weight sensitive sports, even running, all the gravitational sports, climbing, and so on. So, what we do is that we try to fuel body sufficiently, at least around the times of exercise. And then the rest of the times, so for example, if you have training in the afternoon, you don't eat so much at breakfast because, it's not the most essential. You still eat the meal, but you really are more careful and try to really follow this. So less energy dense foods, for example. So more complex carbohydrates, some low fat stuff, for example. And then around the exercise, that's when you still need the fuel. So that's how you can manage to lose weight without having this damage that can come from low energy availability. Because we still have to compensate for the stress during the exercise, but that's really the most around the times of exercise. The rest of the time, it's still completely fine if we try to lose a little bit of weight. And also importantly, some people just try to go into like this energy deficit to lose weight quickly, but sometimes it's a better idea to try to get some lean mass first. So also do some weight training, for example, to really increase muscle mass, because that muscle mass is going to use the most energy, even when you're resting. If you're just sitting down, your muscle mass is going to be the most metabolically active tissue, and you're going to be able to also improve your body composition in this way. And so, because it's always more important to have optimal body composition than to have a perfect number on the scale. So, for example, at 60 kilos, one person can be very slim but very fat at the same time, quite because we see a lot of that, unfortunately. And some person can have a lot of muscle mass, and it's much better, for example. So yeah, in that sense, try to still support your exercise, but other than that, so you try to follow these recommendations for weight loss. So a bit more protein, a bit less carbs when you're not training, and low energy density foods.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so thank you once more, Anna Karin. I believe Petra already joined the group. Petra Zupet, Dr. She will, yeah, I can see you now. She will continue with another topic. Well, anyway, if maybe somebody will have some additional question, we will kindly ask you, Anna Karin, to even later advise something, or I hope that there will be another opportunity in October when we have this marathon run. The day before their marathon run on Saturday, there will be a conference, and all mentor students are invited to come. And maybe we will even be able to organize at that time additional workshop or kind of gathering to answer some questions, and I hope this is going to be possible. So don't want to promise, but still we will try to do something in this way. So thank you very much once more, and really happy that you were with us today.
Thanks. Thank you again for inviting me. Good luck, everybody. Also, enjoy the next lecture. It's a great lecture.
Okay. So yeah, as we announced, we will continue. Well, maybe later we will even have a short break. Petra Zupet is our doctor, and the topic we would like to cover with this lecture is linked to safe and healthy sport exercise, and another part, preventing injuries in sport. When we've been preparing topics for the lectures, we spoke with Petra, as she is a doctor at Ljubljanski Marathon every year, and also really expert doctor in sport medicine. what to present. And of course, the really important part was that we are talking about healthy sport now. We should do something good for ourselves, not to harm our body and to even put ourselves in kind of critical situation. So this is a part of what we would like to present today, and we kindly ask Petra, I kindly ask Petra maybe just for a short introduction and then take the floor. And you have about 2 hours. We can even end earlier if it will be enough, and we can even make some break if you would like, or others would ask for this.
Yeah. Hello to everybody. Thank you, Aleš, for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here with you today. So, as Aleš said, I've been a chief medical doctor in Ljubljana Marathon now for more than 10 years. So, my point in these 2 lectures would be to show you some traps which comes with running if we don't do it properly. I wasn't able to listen to Karin's talk, which I'm really feel sorry to, but I'm sure she already showed you what's one of the most important topics while talking about sports and performance and trainings. And I would like to continue on that. So we have 2 parts. I suggest we do a first part first and then do a 10 or 15 minutes break and then continue with the second part, so it will be easier for all of us to be concentrated. If you have any questions, I don't mind if you do interrupt me in between, so I know better that you are following what's really interesting for you. So it can be a conversation. I don't need to talk by myself for 2 hours. So you're invited to give some questions if you have any. Otherwise, I'm a sports medicine specialist working in the private institute for medicine and sports in Ljubljana now for 20 years. For 10 years before, I was employed at Sports Medicine Center in Ljubljana Clinical Center. I'm a team doctor of our rowing federation and the gymnastics Federation, and also included in International Cycling Federation in the Medical Commission, and also in the Rowing Medical Commission of the World Rowing. So I deal a lot with the endurance athletes, and that's also where I would like to start with the first presentation. Just a second, I need to share the screen, not that one. Can you see it now?
We can see Petra, but in this moment you are sharing your desktop. So
And now I have the PowerPoint open. You don't see it?
not yet.
No, just a second. I try again. Now it should work. Yeah, or still the desktop?
No, it's a presentation. Okay, now it is. Yeah.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the first talk, we are going to go through the physiology of running, from cellular energy to field testing, and then we will finish with the health concerns. It will be all connected to each other, as you will see. And these are really, we will finish with some points which are really important while running, especially in the mass events where we sometimes really challenge some life-threatening problems. So it's really important that you understand the mechanism and that you are aware how to train in the right way and to stay healthy all the time. So to understand all the physiology, first we will go through the muscular cell energy. I don't know what your level of knowledge is, but I will start, as you know, already from a high school something, but we will repeat on very basic level. Our muscle cell get the energy while we move, while we do some exercises through three different mechanisms. These are phosphagen system, anaerobic metabolism, and aerobic metabolism. Let me explain you all the three of this. So the first one is the phosphagen system. This is the mechanism that the muscle gets the energy for very fast movements, very fast contractions, which are really intensive. This is the really high intensity level of exercise, but they don't last long. This is the mechanism that assures the energy for up to 10 seconds of maximal muscle contractions, meaning jumps, sprints, up to 100 meters, throws, etc. We should see that there are two important molecules which gives out this direct energy for the muscle contraction. The first, I'm sure you heard about it, it's the ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It's not really necessary that you know the whole name, but you should remember that there is a small muscle which equals the energy for the muscle contraction. And if you imagine that you have some amount of these small molecules in muscle per se, this gives the right away energy. So if we want to start a movement, there is some storage of the ATP molecules already in the muscle, which allows us to start the movement. But this amount of the storage is really low. So we ran out, and if there weren't any other mechanism to renew these ATP molecules, we would have to stop. So there are three different mechanisms to renew these ATP molecules as energy source for the muscle contraction. The first one is the creatine phosphate, which is also a small molecule being already in the muscle, and we can also influence of the storage of it with our training. When these molecules falls apart, it gives the energy to create the ATP and to again give the direct energy for the muscle contraction. So if you see the first point, the direct storage of ATP in the muscles ensures about 3 seconds of maximal muscle contraction and additional 5 to 7 seconds from the storage of creatine phosphate, CP. This energy is hidden in phosphate bonds, and it is released when the phosphate group is separated from the parent molecule. This is just the mechanism it goes. After that, this is really for the intense activities, and after that, if there weren't the second mechanism to renew this energy, we would have to stop, as we already said. So after that, after some seconds of the maximal contraction, there is another mechanism, another metabolism working in the body that ensures further energy production, and this goes from the muscle glycogen. There we have some storages for muscle contraction in muscles per se. And this is available after some seconds of muscle contraction to renew the ATP molecules to give the energy for the muscle contraction. We should be aware that this mechanism is a little bit or longer than it was the first one, when just the division of the phosphagene group from the parent molecule is very short in time. This mechanism is longer. What that means that the whole procedure to get the energy is longer. So in the practical meaning, it means that the muscle contraction cannot be as fast, as intensive as it is when we deal just with the ATP or creatine phosphate mechanism of energy renewal. So the muscle glycogen is broken down into glucose, which is then without the presence of oxygen, it breaks down to lactate, and in this procedure, the ATP is produced. Still, this system is 2.5 faster than the aerobic system. The aerobic system meaning that all the metabolism is going on in the presence of the oxygen. But this system has, let's say, side effect. This is the lactic acid production, which is a kind of reason for our muscles to become tired. And we cannot continue more than 1.5 approximately in the muscle contraction. So we would need to stop, or we should lower the intensity. Okay. If we lower the intensity, we give our muscle a chance to switch to aerobic metabolism, meaning aerobic cellular respiration, so that the procedure of energy production is possible in the presence of oxygen. This mechanism is very slow, but it doesn't have any side effect. Theoretically, it can last indefinitely. But in practical, we need some energy source, new sources, because we don't have storages to run forever to be replaced. In this mechanism, the energy source is glycogen or fatty acids. When we are talking about long-lasting runs, like for 10, 24 hours, etc., the energy source can also be the amino acids, but it's not really the way we want to produce our energy, because this means that our muscles are going to be catabolized, and we are losing a muscle mass, which is nobody really wants to happen. So our glycogen storage, or fatty acid storage, which we have normally much more, they broke down in the presence of oxygen, and we get the end products of ATP molecule, which we said is a direct energy for muscle contraction, CO2, which we exhale, and the water, which we exhale too. And as we said, we don't have any side effects or side products. So this process can continue until few hours, until we finish, theoretically said. But we get to other medical problems if we are not trained well. So knowing that, we go one step further. So now we know what exactly is physiologically going on in the body while we start running and while we continue running. So now it depends what exactly we want from our running. Do we want to do short distances? Do we want to do middle distances? Do we want to do long distances? But as far as I understand, we are here for long distances, so we will talk a little bit more about long distance running and help we can have to plan it properly. For that reason, we do some functional assessment of our running performance, so we know exactly where are we in the exact point of the time and how is our health status. So we do the functional assessment for two reasons. The first one, to assess our running performance, and the second, to assess our health status. We don't have enough time to talk about all the medical reasons, but I would like just to point out that one thing we are really afraid of, and it's not really rare that it happens in athletes who feel healthy and they seem healthy, is the sudden cardiac death. So in the competitive athletes, it is prescribed by the law and by law in Slovenia and also in other European countries that all the competitive athletes should be tested for the cardiovascular diseases once per year or twice per year, or even in some countries every 2 years. And this is what we do on a regular basis. The exercise testing on treadmills or cycle ergometers are really of big help, because we see those cardiovascular diseases much sooner than we can see them otherwise. And it's not really rare for athletes who skip this exercise testing and preventive medical checkups, that then it can happen that they suddenly die on the football field or during the running or something. We also had, I know why I'm talking to you about this, because a few years ago we had two sudden cardiac deaths on the field. The first one was just after the start in Slovenia. This Ljubljana Marathon is the biggest recreational running event, and really have a lot of participants, not compared to Boston or Berlin Marathon, but it's really a big event for Slovenia. And the start was at that time the same time for 21 and 42K. And after the start, just after the start, 1 kilometer after the start, I got a call from a policeman that we had a dead runner after 1 kilometer. I sent the ambulance at the same moment. But what was really lucky, and I cannot see if Karin is here, is that her mother was running on that event, and she was just behind him, and she started the resuscitation. And then the medical emergency team came and took over, and he was really lucky to survive. Just few minutes after that, on the 4th kilometer, we had another runner with a heart attack. Both of them were 42K runners. They were well trained, no subjective symptoms, no problems, no medical problems, no medical history. They were training every year, every day, every week by week, year by year. And they both survived because they really had good medical care, which came just in a minute or two after it happened. And what they were lucky is that it happened just in the beginning of their run. If they would have a heart attack after 30 or after 35 kilometers, the heart is so tired that it's not possible to resuscitate anymore. So we were lucky, they were lucky, and I got a call 2 days after the event from the wife of one of them, and she asked me what would happen if the same happened while he was running on the field while training. So you probably know the answer. So that's why it is really, I'm not scaring you. I just wanted to point out that if we do some sport, and especially if we are older than 35, but also younger, also for younger people who do intensive training, endurance training, we do propose the regular preventive checkups at least once per 2 years, because we normally feel healthy, but it is really specific for the athletic population, also for those who do sports, also on recreational level, that we don't have any symptoms like normal patients have, like chest pain or some dizziness or difficulties with breathing or something. So it can be the first sign of the cardiovascular disease. It can be just the cardiac arrest. And then the second that I will show you slides further on is the assessment of our performance so we know exactly what our ability is and how to plan further on our trainings depending on our wish, what we want to get from our trainings, to do it properly. So let me repeat what we just started our lecture with, is that we have activities, different activities that are related to individual energy sources. So we have some short, very intensive activities like jumps, throws, and sprint, which are connected to the phosphagen system, which works very explosive, where we have our storages of energy in the form of ATP and creatine phosphate. The problem is that the energy supply is very small. If it wouldn't be very small, then imagine we could run with the pace of 100 meter on 2K distance or 5K distance. It would be really a big difference. And the problem is that we very soon get rid of energy supply, meaning in 10 seconds. So then the second group of activities are cyclic activities in duration of 20 seconds to most 3 minutes. Before we set 1.5 minute because it's an average, but those who are well trained can endure in these activities up to 3 minutes. The aerobic metabolism gives us energy very fast, but not as explosive as the phosphagen system does. The energy source is the glycogen in the muscles. They have their energy source by themselves, and the energy supply is limited. And also there is a problem that we have the side product in the form of lactic acid, and this is what we feel like tiredness, and we cannot continue on the same pace of running as we did in the first 1 or 2 minutes. So we after 2 to 3 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes, depending on our ability, we have to switch to the third mechanism. So we need to lower our pace of running, and because of switching to another mechanism of energy production. This is aerobic metabolism, which uses the oxygen to produce the energy from the energy sources of glycogen and fatty acids. The energy source is unlimited, and we don't have any fatigue factors if we don't talk about other medical problems that can happen. So theoretically, but in practically, we know, and I'm sure you talked about this with Karin, that we need to have some snacks during our endurance activities if they last longer. Okay. So we will see our performance assessment differently. We'll talk about it differently for middle distance, about 800 to 1.5K, and long distances above 3,000 to 42K. The main way to obtain energy is by burning carbohydrates in the presence of oxygen. That's what we already explained. But some energy is also produced without oxygen, meaning consumption of creatine phosphate and anaerobic glycolysis. I did not tell you much about it, but afterwards I will explain what what's here written means. So when we talk about different distances covered, we know the intensity is the shorter the distance, the intensity is higher. So what does that mean? That means when we run, I forgot to translate the Petra, but doesn't matter. If we run on 3,000 meter, we run at 100% of VO2 max. When we cover longer distances, we see that the percentage of VO2 max is decreasing. What does that mean? The VO2 max is the maximal oxygen uptake our body is able to consume. So the higher it is, the better is our endurance performance. But it is just one of the parameters showing us our endurance performance. I will show you that later. But it is very important, and the most important, it is on the shorter distances, but not too short. When we deal with very short distances, like 200, 300 and less distance, then we actually don't need our oxygen because the running is too fast, and our body and our muscles doesn't have time to consume the oxygen. But at longer distances, at 800 meters, 1,500 meters, etc., we actually the VO2 max is the maximum, the most important parameter we rely on, that our performance relies on. In the distances that are longer than 5,000 meters, there are other parameters that become more important. Not still that the VO2 max isn't important, but there are three parameters that are even more important than the VO2 max, or at least can compensate the lower VO2 max. It is the running economy, the lactate threshold, and the maximum lactate balance. If we want to plan our running training properly, we should do the testing at least 3 to 4 times a year. But in the reality, it is like this in competitive sport, but not really in the recreational sport. So while talking about running, the most appropriate, of course, is the treadmill test, which can be separated into 2 parts. This is the way that I will show you the way that it's really done it properly, but we can also shorter test for recreational runners or for those who are not really interested in the exact number, but can differ for a few percentage, so we can have shorter test. Otherwise, it is also really time consuming, energy consuming, all the testing, and also, of course, money consuming. So in the first part of the test, we do the initial warm up for 10 to 15%. Then we start with the running on the treadmill with the inclination of 1%, and the initial pace is of course depends on the runner's ability. Just to have a clue, what does that mean? The initial pace, for example, for national class women's juniors is about 11 kilometers per hour, and world class men, it's about 15 kilometers per hour. We do the increasing by 1 kilometer per hour every 3 minutes. That's kind of normal procedure, but it's depending on the training level, on our performance. Those who are less trained, the level can last longer, but still it may not last too long, because otherwise the test runs forever and we may never end it. So we normally do it 3 or 4 minutes per stage. We try to fix 5 to 9 levels, and the test should be ended before the runner's exhaustions. Only for those runners who run more than 5,000 kilometers, where the VO2 max is not as important, but there are other parameters that are important for the training program. We continue until exhaustion. In the part 2, when we want to measure the maximal oxygen consumption very exactly, athlete should run as long as he or she can at the running speed, the final speed from the first part of the test minus 2 kilometers. We increase the inclination every minute by 1%, and the test, if we did it properly, lasts for 5 to 10 minutes. We do lactate measurements immediately after the test, and then at minute 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10 after the test. This is just for 800 and 1.5K runners. So I will show you an exemption for the combination, of such a test, where we check the cardiac health, the pulmonary health, and also the performance. So when we are looking also for cardiac condition, we always do the 12-lead ECG, which with the electrodes she put on the first. Then we put the mask on, and this is the portable machines which measures the breathing parameters, and it measures also the oxygen consumption, and then we measure directly the VO2 max, which is very important. The predictable values which we get from different watches, etc., also are just the assumption and are not the real measurement. So the mistake can be, we don't know how big is the mistake, but which is important if we plan our trainings or we follow our performance changes. It is important that the mistake is always the same, so we see if we get better or not. So we follow an athlete online all the time. The doctor sitting nearby. We do the lactic measurements every stage. This was the stage for the lactic threshold measurement. So we did the 3 minutes protocol. Then we take the blood sample from the earlobe, or you can also do it from the finger. And we write down the measurements. After that, we can calculate the thresholds, which are important for a runner on long distances, as we said. When talking about the maximal oxygen consumption, just to give you an idea of the numbers, what something really means. So we said it is important in distances up to 5K, but nevertheless also on longer distances, runners, so professional runners, usually do have high VO2 max. If we talk about world-class men, it is around 80 to 90 milliliter per kilogram body weight per minute. I'm used to use that units. You can also see in some in some books or articles other units, but it is the usual way we use it in sports physiology and exercise physiology and sports medicine. So in national class women's juniors, so it's less in women, about on average 10% less in women than in men, because we have less smaller heart, and the heart is how to say the limit for our maximal oxygen uptake. So that's the reason why women will never have such success as men do. So if we talk about recreational runner, for I don't know, maybe for your age, students' age, I would talk about men, a good result men, about 50 to 65 milliliters. In women, about 45. For what's more, it's of course even better. I don't know, our let's say football player, soccer player should have about there is a study that shows that above 55 milliliters does not influence the performance, but I'm not really sure about this. So above 60, 65 is the normal value. They have basketball player 50, 55. What else? Also those athletes who don't have in really the endurance sport, who don't participate in endurance sport, like gymnasts, also need to have some good level of oxygen consumption, because it is really important for the regeneration, and that meaning about 45 should be in an athlete, and it's decreasing with the age. So in my age, about 50, the result about 40, 45 per woman. 50 is already very good, but about 40, it's already a good result. The next parameter, or the first one we talk about on longer distances, is the running economy. Running economy means just how much oxygen we do consume at the specific running pace in a minute. And always divided by a body weight, and the higher it is, the better it is. We have two ways of measuring it with the exact numbers. I will not explain because it's not really important. I would just like to show you with this table that we measure it, and we can really see if somebody is really economic, or he's losing too much energy, he gives too much effort to the specific pace. Then we need to find the reason for that. It is he uses his breathing muscles too much, his technique is wrong, or something, which is then important because it really influences the performance, and also it can lead to the injuries. The next two parameters that are important to plan our trainings in long distance runnings are the lactate thresholds 1 or 2. I also call them aerobic and anaerobic threshold. The first, the lactate threshold 1, or aerobic threshold, is the first increase in lactate above the resting values. So if we do measure our lactate values while sitting or lying down, they will have values about 1.5 millimole per liter. And when we start running, they will maybe rise a little bit, but if there is a small pace, we soon go to the aerobic mechanism. And as we saw before, that's why I was explaining you the mechanism of energy availability and energy production, is that we go directly to the oxygen consumption. We use oxygen to produce the energy. So we don't have any lactic acid. We have no side result, no side product. Is that right? We just use the glycogen and the fatty acids, no side product, and so our lactic values, lactic concentrations stay the same all the time, but at low intensities. When the intensity reaches the point that we are not able to produce enough energy just by aerobic mechanism, then the lactic acid concentration rises. And this is this point. So this is a really well-trained athlete. At 14, this is the running pace, 14 kilometers per hour, 15, 16, etc. These are the lactic acid values, and this is the pulse. And we see it is the values at 14 kilometers per minute. The concentration of lactic acid is the same as when sitting, and also at 16, and this is the last point, then it rises. So at this point, the runners switches just from aerobic metabolism to he starts to produce the energy via anaerobic metabolism too, so anaerobic respiration, using the glycogen with the side products of lactic acid. This lactic threshold speed is a good predictor of average marathon running speed. So it's a boundary between easy running and running imbalance. So if you want to know what would be your best pace to have a good result, to not go too fast and then to have problems because of that, and if you want to reach the maximum, the best result at the end of the run, it's the lactic threshold pace, the one you should run all the 42 kilometers all the time. Then we go forward to the lactic threshold 2, which is also called the anaerobic threshold. And this is the point. This is the same runner, the same exercise testing. We see the second point where if we are looking at the curve, it's first horizontal, then it goes up, and then it switches even steeper up. At that point, when the curve becomes steeper, this is the second lactic threshold, and it means the sudden increase in blood lactate concentration, and this usually happens after 1 to 2 kilometers per hour after the first threshold. This difference between the threshold 1 and threshold 2 is smaller in long distance runners and larger in middle distance runners. And this threshold 2 we find usually at approximately 90% of maximal heart rate. And it is I wrote this from the book, but it's not true. We don't know the exact value. We measure it, the exact value of the lactic acid concentration. It doesn't need to be above 2 or above 4, or even the more the person is trained, the higher the value is. So it can be also 5 or 6 or something. And this speed, this running pace, it is recommended for example, running on 21K, and it can be held mostly for maximum of 60 minutes. So it is the best pace for running if we want the best result on the distances that we can cover in 60 minutes. When we measure all these parameters, it is very welcome to have a trainer which can help us with exact training protocols because they're really useful. It depends on what we want to train. So if we want to really train our bases and we want to train paces for longer events, or we want just to train long distances and train for our health, not for the result, we train below the first lactic threshold. At the lactic threshold, we said there are paces for longer events. After in the intensity or the paces between 1 and 2, the lactic threshold 1 and 2, we use the carbohydrate, and this utilization of carbohydrates are really important. So we also need to fuel our body to stay there, and more we reach the lactic threshold 2, more we reach the pace, and we want to perform better at the higher paces. So we do the interval, in 3 weeks interval, the increasing in the pace to train the lactic threshold to push it higher and higher. And the really good, really professional athletes have both lactic thresholds above 90% or around 95% of VO2 max. So they have really wide aerobic capacity they can cover. Okay, and when we do the interval training, we do it at the high intensities, but we train with this interval training at high intensities. We do train our VO2 max because we influence our body that way. Okay. We can do, I will not go through the test for middle distance running because we talk about the marathon running or 10K and more. There are some additional tests which we suggest to add to this performance test. This is lung function test, and what is really also important, there are blood tests, especially tests for the iron stores, which are found to be very, very common. The iron depletion is very common. There are lots of mechanisms causing that, especially in athletic population, but we don't have time to talk about it. Just as a take-home message, I would like to give you a reminder that if you do some sport, let you do some blood measurements at least once per year, and if the iron storage in the form of ferritin is the most appropriate form for iron storages, but you should be aware that you shouldn't have any inflammation because it arises in that situation. If it is below 50, you should supplement it, because it doesn't. The low iron storages don't influence just the hemoglobin, our blood, which is well known. It also influences our concentration, mental functions. What is important in sport, it influences the muscle contraction because it's a part of all the enzymes that works in energy production in the procedures we talked about. So it's really, really, really important. And at least at Slovenia, we don't have enough knowledge about the importance of the iron storage in our bodies. Then additional tests are also the mobility test and leg muscle strength assessment, which are also welcome if we want to prevent some injuries and also if we want to perform on the highest level. Okay, I have some more to talk about it. Maybe we should finish that lecture and then have the break, if you agree. Aleš, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. Now we have 2 hours of lectures already, and important topics, not easy to follow, of course, if you want to be precise. And I think that a short break would be really useful.
Okay.
So let us say about 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
and then
5 minutes. 5 minutes, okay?
Or maybe 10 because it's already 2 hours. I think
Okay,
five
sure.
by 6 would be okay.
6. Okay, we continue. And yeah, if you have some questions, maybe you can type or you can ask, up to you. And now 10 minutes break. Okay. It's time to continue. Yes, and again, we continue with the record. So some colleagues that are missing today will be able to follow and to learn about the really important topic. So Petra, if you agree, you can continue.
Mac. Sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
Another hour, maybe a little less. Tina will join us at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So
At
then
7. So we will continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just have one question. So what are some other tests you think an athlete should complete? To name a few: thyroid gland tests, electrolytes tests, adrenal gland tests. Just a second. Are these necessary? Just good to have done. So regarding thyroid tests, I think it's very important in athletes who train a lot, because when we train a lot, there is also an influence of our hormonal system, and we can really decrease our hormonal function. So one of the first is the thyroid, and in competitive athletes we do it on regular basis, that meaning at least once per year. But it's worth doing it twice per year if it's really a period of intensive training. And if it is influenced, if the hormones are not okay, then we should rethink about the training load and the regeneration techniques to not to fall further, because it is not the sign of the overtraining systems, but it's go hand by hand, if you can understand me. Also, what we do test in male athletes is the testosterone. I don't talk about the recreational level, recreational athletes, though I had once one with the low testosterone, and it's really important. But I think if there is no just to finish the electrolytes on regular basis, we test the sodium, because it's the sign of the dehydration. We also do the urine test to check the dehydration or enough rehydration of the athlete. What is really important is when you feel tired, when you have the sleep disturbances, when you have mood changes, if you don't reach the goals you think you should, meaning with the training load, etc., then you really need to check a wider blood parameters, because probably you will find some disturbances, and it's really important in hormonal levels too. So I hope I did answer the question. Okay, let us continue. But I think it is a great question, because it's really important. And in my athletes, I do regular blood checks in recreational runners also, of those who run on regular basis. But for those competitive athletes, we do it really regular on 3 to 4 months period, or half a year, but normally at least 3 times per year. Okay, just let me see. Do you see my my PPT?
It is the most common medical issues at running races is the current slide we are watching.
Yeah, that's it. I just don't know how to extend it.
It's full screen.
Yeah, for you, but not for me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So the most common medical issues at running races. It's really sometimes we have hard times, so I'd like to share this with you. At the finish line, but also the sign lines of a running race can sometimes really look a little bit like medical chaos. Because lots of people sometimes throw up, they bent over, some lying on the ground or stumbling around. And of course, the vast majority of those athletes don't end up in the medical tent, but they are at least just tired or overexerted. But some of these runners, and we really watch carefully, need medical help, and a small number will need very serious medical assistance. I can tell you from my experience that at least one runner per run needs a serious medical assistance, meaning that without it, his survival would be under a question mark. So it's really not what we want on the recreational event. So on average, from the scientific reports, medical encounters are about 2% of the field in marathons. And one of the biggest factors in determining how many athletes will need medical assistance is the weather. With the rate of medical encounters more than doubling in hot years and the number of heat-related issues skyrocketing. Important factors while discussing weather are humidity, direct heat stress, acclimatization of the athlete population, and the running distance. So when talking about the most common medical issues at running races, both on course and post finish are, of course, typically musculoskeletal and soft tissue, gastrointestinal or heat related, but not life-threatening heat related. That means blisters, cuts, cramps, strains, joint pain, nausea, bloating, and gastrointestinal disorders. But some serious conditions we should be aware of are named in the next slide. So the one of the commonest, which looks serious but it's not the case, is when runners are unable to stand up after finishing a race. And it's not really caused by dehydration. We call it exercise-associated collapse. It accounts for a high percentage of the encounters, and it is the most common medical condition at race finishing lines. The reason is the vasodilatation. So the reason is when a runner stops suddenly, the blood pressure falls, and we feel like dizziness, like transit loss of consciousness, but it's not really a medical important. We just need to lie athlete down, we raise his or her leg, and he will get better in few minutes. The first one, which is the most important by the prevalence, is the exertional heat stroke, and is the most common medical issue at the end of the race, and it's heat related. And it accounts for 20 to 30 of medical encounters. And is the most serious of those conditions when an athlete's core body temperature has risen about 40 degrees and does not come down. It is usual if we are in a hot environment that the body core temperature will not go down by say, and the athlete really urgently needs help. So to see how many cases we can expect per event, they did the analysis around, pardon, 100,000 runners across take-can road races. They had 600 medical encounters occurred within 25% of them being heat-related, and 94 requiring ice tube water. I will show you immersion. I will show you later how it looks like for exertional heat stroke. And in Twin Cities Marathon data over 25 years, they had 3,269 medical encounters with about 30 severe exertional heat stroke. So that means life-threatening heat stroke, and the meaning with the core rectal temperature of over 22.8 degrees, and the normal it is 37. Okay. So just to have a look at the table, when talking about the temperature, air temperature, we need to take into account also the humidity, the wind, the direct sun exposure, and all this together we can measure, and we do measure at the world level events and some other important events, endurance events, because the organizer should know at what temperatures they need to stop the race. It's really important. We call it the wet bulb globe temperature, and if it rises above about 28 to 30, it is needed to stop all the activities, and the race has to be postponed or cancelled. You can see that below the 10 degrees of wet bulb globe index gives us no increased risk for example, heat stroke, and it occurs already at the temperatures about, the risk is higher temperature in endurance events. We talk about endurance events about 18 to 22 degrees Celsius. So it does not exclude that the heat stroke can occur at lower. At least I had some cases also this year. 2 weeks ago we had a case, and it was around 18 degrees Celsius of I don't know the wet bulb globe temperature, but the normal measured temperature was around 18 degrees, and we had a runner with a serious heat illness, but he was well treated, so he just needed to a little bit longer to cool down, but he was then okay. But in case we would not cool him down, he was in a life-threatening condition. So the symptoms, and we should be aware of the symptoms, and we should help the person with these symptoms, because normally these persons are not, they have not loss of consciousness, but they get, how to say, loss of normal mind. They don't feel like something is wrong with them, and usually they send the help away. So we should think that something is maybe wrong with the person, and we should stay with them and help them. So the symptoms are that the rectal temperature, that's the central temperature, is above 14 degrees Celsius, that our nervous system doesn't function well. We are disorientated, we are irritated, we can have convulsions, we can collapse, loss of consciousness in the end. We have difficulties with walking. Our walking is not very stable. We are dizzy, extremely fatigued. We can have a headache, we can vomit, nausea, diarrhea, higher heart rate, we can hyperventilate. And what is really important at the end is that our skin is not wet anymore. It is dry, and it is usually cold. So Don't mess these symptoms and say, okay, he's cold, he's dry, he doesn't have a high temperature. The only treatment of the exertional heat stroke is, except the vital functions, of course, is to cool down the athlete. We use eye tubes, like you see it on the picture. Every event organizer should have at least one. If they don't have one, we can help us with the ice and with the cold wet towels that has to be changed because they get warm very, very soon. How we can prevent exertional heat stroke? The most important and really important, and now we are in May, I don't know where you come from, but in Slovenia now the temperatures will rise, and they did already some times ago for a period, so very suddenly, and always the problem for the such additional events are in the beginning of the season, of the running season, because the temperature rise very quickly and we are not adapted to the temperature. So we need at least 2 weeks for the adaptation. Adaptation means physiological changes involving the cardiovascular system, skin, plasma volume, evaporation, and blood flow through the skin. So once we are well acclimatized, it is easier to train and to compete in hot environment and less risky for the medical problems. So here you have some practical tips for trainings and competitions in hot environment. So first is, of course, the appropriate planning and preparation for the training and competitions. We have to do the acclimatization process properly. We have to avoid extreme weather conditions. We should plan our training and competition times in the morning or in the evening, not in the midday. We should wear appropriate clothing, so it's no way we wear long sleeves and anoraks, etc., where we cannot sweat properly, because it's really dangerous for our health. We should ensure adequate fluid intake before the event and during the event, but not drink too much. I'm sure you went with Karin through the drinking process, so which is also important, and this is our next topic, is what we drink during our activities. So if we are active up to an hour, the plain water is sufficient, but above an hour we urgently need rehydration fluid, otherwise we can have other medical problems. The most important of them, it's not really common, but it's really dangerous, is the exercise associated hyponatremia. We have some asymptomatic mild cases which have an incidence up to 13% in marathon runners when the blood levels were tested, but really the symptoms are not to be worried about. But what we should know is what I started with, that it typically is caused by drinking too much water. Too much water without the electrolytes, and this can be fatal. So we have two fatal conditions during the long running events. Also 10K, but usually 21, because people are less trained, not trained properly. This is at least my experience, that we have on 42 kilometers, we really don't have lots of really dangerous cases, because these are normally trained people who know and who train on regular basis. I'm now just talking about the people who are actually healthy, who don't have any hidden heart diseases, etc., or known heart diseases. Usually we have on shorter distances because people are not trained well, and that's why medical problems are more common. So be aware, if you run more than 1 hour, drink some electrolytes with the fluid. It's really essential, because if you don't do it, the natrium, the sodium in your blood falls below the normal values. You don't need to know the number, of course. It causes the symptoms that can be mistaken for dehydration. And in this case, if we consume even more water because we think we are dehydrated, we cause further dropping sodium levels, and we can even worsen our symptoms and increase the problem. What is the mechanism of exercise-associated hyponatremia? The mechanism is that fluid retention is enhanced by an increase in an antidiuretic hormone, also called arginine vasopressin, which causes fluid retention, which is released during exercise. And it may be overstimulated by factors associated with muscle breakdown, because also if we are not trained well, our muscle break down during our activity, and they cause altered kidney function during running, and everything then goes wrong. This exercise-associated hyponatremia most frequently occurs in athletes because of overhydration, as we said, and a common symptom we observe would be a weight gain because of an inability to urinate out a sweat or excess fluid. And we said we can have mild symptoms, nausea, dizziness, and a headache. And these symptoms can progress to altered mental status and seizures. So be careful. If you start vomiting, if you start feeling dizzy or something, just stop. It doesn't really, the result doesn't mean anything in case we risk our life. So and I know why I'm telling you that, because I see too many medical problems on recreational events where we should enjoy and really have fun. So normally we can test sodium levels in the medical tent on large events, or really large events, but not on all of them. So sometimes also doctors, as we are, can also rely on the symptoms, and we don't know really the reason. But if we have symptoms and we think the athlete can have the hyponatremia, if he's aware, if he's conscious, he or she should consume salty food or some high sodium concentrated broths. But if he or she is unconscious, then we do the hypertonic saline solution intravenously. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the time, because I have a question from my experience of running a half marathon, for example. How does drinking water or electrolytes go with, the energy gels or something? Because I have a really sensitive stomach and all the GI system, and I feel really uncomfortable with combining energy gels and electrolytes, because I don't feel well after that. So how does it, is it connected?
Yeah, you're not the only one. That's always a problem. How to skip it if you have the irritable stomach. It's difficult. It's really difficult. You run on on what distances for marathons or
half marathon, and the marathon I hope in the future. So
but you need how much time for a marathon? For half
maybe
marathon.
A half marathon, like 1:50, 55.
1:55, yeah, that's almost 2 hours. Yeah, you can solve I can just suggest you, I cannot guarantee it can work, but I would suggest to increase the intake of salty food before the run. So you increase the content, even though it is well regulated in the body, still we have some intervals where we the highest and the lowest value, and the body keeps some more salt. And soon after that you should eat some salty soup or something like this. But during the, I don't know, I would just suggest you to try to find something that's not just plain water. I really don't have other idea. I know it's a problem because I don't run such long distances, but I do some other activities which last long, and I have a similar problem, and it's not really there's no good answer for that. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you for your
Except trying to
understanding.
find something at least. So with the energy availability, you will not miss a lot, because if you don't have the intake of additional energy in the form of glucose, what will happen, it will just that you will feel a little bit more tiredness, and that you will need to lower your pace, your intensity. It's not dangerous, but with the water and with the salt, it is dangerous. It can be very dangerous. Also, if there is a hot climate where we sweat more and we lose more salt with sweating, it's again additional problem. Even though when you sweat, if you're trained well, you will lose less salt with your sweating. You will lose more water. You will sweat more because of the thermoregulation, but you will not lose so much salt. So being really well trained for the distances you plan to cover is one of the most important factors you can cover regarding the intake of the salt.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, then we can go to our next presentation. Regarding running injuries and its prevention. So we will go through the some most important running injuries and some tips how to prevent each of them. You will get my slides, so I will not go into details, and also I will show you some exercises on the slides, but I think it's the task of a trainer to show it in reality. So we'll just mention what options we have to for injuries not to happen. So running injuries are very, very, very common, and nearly half of all runners report a running injury annually. Mostly we talk about overtraining injuries. So these are not acute injuries that happen at once, but we just feel the pain at once, but the mechanism of the injuries was long lasting, maybe for weeks, maybe for months, maybe even for a year, and then just suddenly, without knowing why, we just feel the pain. So if it is the case, then we know that it's an or chronic injury or overtraining injury. Our training program should include appropriate preventive measures not for injuries not to happen, alongside methods to develop the athlete's ability. So running injuries are most likely to occur in novice runners, runners with previous injuries. So I tell you that the previous injuries is the most important risk factors for the next injury. Runners who run more than 65 kilometers per week, runners who accelerate too fast, and women with reduced bone density. This is not our case, I hope, yet. So we have like 3 categories of the common running injuries. The first one, runner's knee, IT band and shin splints, fractures and tendinopathies and plantar fasciitis. I will just shortly explain each of them. First of them is front knee pain, meaning in the front of our knee we have a bone we call patella, and the common problem is we have a pain around this patella, around this bone and the kneecap, and this pain can be felt all the time, or can be just felt after a prolonged sitting or when walking up or down. So if you have a pain walking up and down stairs, you already have the diagnosis. So it is, if you run, you know it comes from running. And it is the cause for this pain is mostly the inappropriate sliding of this knee pain kneecap on the articular surface. So when we flex and extend the knee, the patella runs up and down. We have like a sliding surface for this patella on our femoral bone, and it is more common in women because we have a strong lateral muscles, but not that strong medial muscles, and then this causes imbalance in the muscle contractions, and that's why the pain then comes. So knowing that, we can go on to preventive measures. So they say that the internal medial muscles are weaker than the external. We should, to prevent or to heal that condition, do regular exercises to strengthen the lateral, the medial muscle, the medial vastus medialis it is called. These are some cases how to strengthen it. And also we can do some physical therapy, some manual treatment of the muscles that affecting the glide of the also the iliotibial tract. The iliotibial tract is also an important muscle, which we will see on the next slide. Is also very common cause of pain in runners. I just had last week we had a run around Ljubljana, and we got a typical tractus iliotibial problem in a runner who wasn't well trained, who has really tough iliotibial band. This is a iliotibial muscle. You can feel it on the side of your thigh, and it's usually if we don't do the extension exercises, it is really rough and tight, and it can cause pain even though if we don't run. I forgot to translate. Sorry. So another preventive measures are to flexible exercises for the muscles of the backside of the thigh, and the stabilization exercises for the knee and actually all the joints of the lower limb. The iliotibial band syndrome, as I mentioned before, this is the iliotibial tract, very important. There are two points that can be very painful, but in runners, the more common is here the lateral, the outer side of the knee. This pain is caused by repetitive sliding of this band. The risk factors include insufficient stretching of this iliotibial band, the excessive pronation of the foot. So if our biomechanical movement of the foot is not appropriate, so it can cause also the problems upper in the hip or in the knee. That's good to know, because when we look for the reason, always when we have an injury, we look for the reason, and the reason is not always on the same place where we have the pain. And also it can happen when you run on a laterally inclined surface. So there are some preventive measurements. Most of the most important, of course, the stretching exercises, and also avoiding riding on the sideways inclined surfaces. The next one is the shin splints. I'm sure if you run, you experienced it at least once. That's a pain in the front of the shin. And it's usually most pronounced at the start of the running, as all the chronic problems are. Usually we don't have so much pain during the running, but after or early in the morning when we wake up. And then when we get warm, as we say, then the problem is less, and then again it can happen after the activity. The affected part is also painful to touch, and the cause is the inflammation of the attachment of the special muscle to the bone. Again, the preventive measures is to check our biomechanics of running. This is really, really important when we look for a reason for an injury, and we always should, is to check also the biomechanic, the anatomical structure, the way of movement, and the mechanics of running. And also the eccentric and strengthening exercises for the muscle of the back of the calf. Stress fractures is also a chronic injury. It's not the real fracture, it's just a tiny crack in the bone, like you see here on the picture. But if we don't stop, this stress fracture can lead to a complete fracture on the bone, and then the healing process is of course prolonged. And these stress fractures are usually the result of an interrupted process of the bone homeostasis and repairing. So remodeling, we need, meaning that we really need after the activity, we need rest. All our tissues need rest, otherwise we have problems in muscles, in tendons, or in bones. They all need to remodulate. How we prevent this stress fraction? Again, the biomechanics is very important. We have to check the biomechanics and the regular stretching exercises and exercises to strengthen the muscles of the lower limb. So all the muscles and also core muscles are very important if we don't want to have running pains or injuries. Then last very common condition is the Achilles tendonitis and tendinopathy. Tendinopathy is a chronic, let's say, inflammation, and tendonitis an acute one. It's not really the inflammation. We thought years ago, we used to think years ago that this inflammation is another mechanism, but doesn't matter. We still feel it the same way. As a pain usually 2 centimeters above the insertion at the calcaneus, but we can feel it along the entire tendon when flexing the foot. The tendon is also sensitive to touch and may be thickened and also nodular. The prevention measurements include eccentric Achilles tendon exercises. We should do it when we start running. We should do the eccentric exercises same time. I forgot the plantar fasciitis is also an inflammation of the tendon. It's just the name that it is different because it's specific on the foot. We feel it like stinging pain on the inside of the heel, and it can spread along the arch of the foot towards the toes when it worsens. And it's really specific that the first steps in the morning are particularly painful, and then during the day can worsen or can go even better. And this can lead also to inflammation to the adjacent tissues and to the formation of the heel spur or the calcinations. Preventive measurements include running shoes with sufficient heel cushions or point relief, stretching exercises for the feet and the posterior tibial and thigh muscles, and strengthening exercises for the muscle of the foot. Also, it is important to check the shape of the arches of the heel and adjust footwear if necessary. We have some risk factors for every medical condition, also for the running injuries. We have internal, which cannot be influenced, like anatomy, gender, and body mass index. And we have internal risk factors, which can be influenced. These are changes in training load, equipment, nutrition, and psychological factors. Changes in training load are associated with a higher risk factor of injury when we are running distances above 65 kilometers per week. When we do the sudden change in running intensity, meaning changing in speed and difficulty of terrain, when we do irregular interval training, and when stretching exercises do not have a significant impact, while stretching exercises do not have significant impact on injury prevention, but they have a beneficial effect on reducing soft tissue pain and healing injuries. We did not talk about warm-up yet. Warm-up consisting of dynamic running exercises has a largely positive effect on athletic performance. If we want to prevent, we cannot do it completely, but in most cases we are successful if we follow these specific rules. The first one being gradual start of running and in combination with walking. As the running progresses, of course, the walking time should be decreased and the running time should increase. The first running experience should not last longer than 20 minutes per day, and the total daily running time should not increase by more than 5 minutes for the first fortnight. Really important. If we exceed that, we really risk musculoskeletal problems. It is also recommended that beginners run every other day, and for those who run a lot, that will limit the distance covered to 65 kilometers per week, not more. And distances greater than 50 kilometers should be run only once a fortnight. Also, it is recommended to run 4 to 5 times a week with one rest day and one day dedicated to other sporting activities. So always it is good to mix at least 2 sporting activities. Also because if we do just one, it's not just for running, it's for every sport discipline. If we just do one sport, we train specific muscles, and if we want to have a balance and to avoid the injuries, we have to train specifically other muscles who are not involved in our specific training, or mix some different sport disciplines. It is also recommended that the marathon participation is limited to 2 to 3 times per year. Training should be preceded by dynamic isotonic exercise or light jogging, and stretching should be done after the running workout. Runners should build strength and flexibility through other techniques or activities such as yoga and Pilates, as we already discussed. So we should really have good aerobic fitness before stepping up the pace. That's also important. So it's this stepping up the pace is less risky with the fartlek. And also, if it is possible, we should avoid fast downhill running. Also, I have my personal opinion on that, because there are some pluses on downhill running too, but not too We should not do it too often. And we should, if we feel some pain, we should consider that maybe we are between runners who should limit the total distance of interval or repetitive speed training to 5 kilometers or less. Not meaning for everybody, but for most of the people. So of course the choice of running shoes is important and should be based on comfort and appropriate foot shape, not on the on the price and on the television advices. Barefoot running or running with minimalist footwear should only be performed on soft surfaces. And additional strengthening exercises for the anterior tight muscle, hip flexors and abductors and calf muscles are also recommended. We also discussed it already. So last but not least, I put a slide when we should stop running, like a semaphore. We are allowed, or the green light for running is when we have a problem, a musculoskeletal problem, but the full loading is possible without limping. The full mobility is possible, no swelling. Our pain, our subjective pain feeling is less than 1 to 2 out of 10, and the power of the injured extremities or leg or arm, leg, in case we talk about running, is more than 80% of healthy leg. The green, the yellow sign is, so we have to be careful with running, is when the full load is possible but limping is present. While we have mild sweating, mobility is limited, we have a decreased power, but still we don't feel the pain more than 3 to 4 out of 10. The red signal is to stop the activity, meaning stop the activity between the activity if we have these signs, or we should not continue next day or etc. if we feel, if in case of chronic problems, when full load of the extremity is not possible, when there is a limping present, the swelling present, where we have a limited mobility, reduced power, and pain perception is more than 3 to 4 out of 10. So I will finish with that slide. I thank you. This is our medical team on the our last, no, this is from the last year marathon. So we see us in October if you come to Ljubljana. So if you have any question, I'm glad to answer it.
Thank you very much.
Petra, yeah, if there are any questions, now is the time to ask, and I think we have a question.
In the chat, Petra?
Sorry?
In the chat.
Yeah, in chat, yeah, I see it. In which phases of training is it most appropriate take a cardio stress test, especially exercise stress test? So I would advise it to do it once you, if you start with the regular training, I would advise it to do it in advance. So before you start it, if you already are a runner, then I would advise it to do it before the new season. Before the new season, and then it depends on what you expect from the test. If you do it for the training planning, then it depends, but at least every 3 months. But of course, not in the competitive season. It doesn't help anymore. So when you still have time to train, for example, if you prepare yourself for a specific event, then I would advise it at least 5 months in advance, so you have enough time to plan your training and to improve your performance. And then the second question, how can you detect an approaching injury during the race-specific preparation period? This is a phase characterized by high training volume and intensity, where fatigue can easily mask early warning signs of an upcoming issue. Yeah, that's right. How can we be sure that it's just a fatigue? The fatigue usually should go away. It's not specific, so with specific movement, and if we once are so bad that we have a pain, we should recover from that pain for a day or two. If it doesn't go away, I would see a sports medicine specialist or at least a physio. Because sometimes also a pain which doesn't mean an injury yet is just a warning sign, and we should hear it. We should be aware of that and not continue. Also, during the running, for example, if we feel the muscle cramp or that the muscle really gets tight, it's a warning sign. It's really a warning sign, and we should really ask ourselves, is it worth continue and risk the injury? Because every muscle injury heals, if it is very small, at least 14 days, but in most cases we talk about 2 to 3 months to be able to continue with the physical activities. So I would take more care than less in this exam. But regarding the question, if the pain does not go away in a day or two, see the physio. You're welcome. Any more questions?
So if we don't have any further questions, I really would like to thank you, Petra, for both hours of the presentations and a really important topic you covered. Well, as we already announced, we really would like to have a safe sport and safe participation to marathon run, especially if we are talking about recreational level, as it should be also for students. But sometimes happened opposite. So we face some problems, and we would like to avoid. And I hope you listened carefully to Petra and her presentation, and I'm sure you received a lot of useful information. Petra will share with us the PowerPoint, and we will share those PowerPoints also with you. So thank you very much once more, and we will continue with another lecture.
Thank you. Be successful.
Okay, so the last lecture today, also important topic, Tina Jeromen. She is also from sport, but she is a psychologist, and the topic we will talk about is psychological preparation, and especially we put a lot of focus on the motivation for exercise. Sometimes this is important part, not to quit, not to let's say stop what you planned due to different reasons. It's always somehow an option to find a solution to continue, and Tina will help me with this. And first I will kindly ask you to present shortly yourself, and then one last hour today and to tackle this important topic as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alesh. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here with you. For me, it would be great if you could turn on the camera so maybe I can see for a few moments who am I talking to. And while you are finding your buttons, I will find mine to share my presentation. Sorry. I'm sorry, I just clicked something wrong. So this is my presentation. This is Zoom. Share. Share. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody again. Maybe I will just add some words about sports psychology. I think Aleš already said a lot, but us sports psychologists are used to talking to people. So this will not be just a lecture. This will be the workshop. And I'm working with all kind of sportists for 20 years now. And more, a lot of recreational sportists are also searching for sports psychologists' help. What is their main question is the same as the topic of ours today, of today's lecture. So how to be consistent with building a good habit. So how to prepare, start preparing. Starting is always easy. Keeping your motivation, this is what they are usually saying the hardest part. Do you agree? Yes. So let's start with the question. What keeps you moving or not? What stops you moving? Maybe you can write in the chat box, or you can just turn on your microphones and speak. It's not forbidden. So what keeps you moving?
So maybe I can start. I'm Ignacy from Poland, and I am the field athlete, but also marathon runner and triathlete. And I think maybe it's not very good, but I think it's a little bit addiction, in my opinion, because it's addiction of adrenaline or having fun from training, but of course not always during the training. It's most after the training, of course. And but I think it's some schedule, because I have schedule that I have university, I have training, and it's keep me moving. I must do my schedule. I must do this training. I must be better. Today's training make me better on the competition, and it's I think this is my biggest motivation, and to be better, and to feel better, and to look like better, maybe. Also, yeah.
Of course, it's also important that you look good at the end of the day. Thank you. This is basically what keeps us moving. But you emphasized this idea that you must do it. So there is no way of going out. But when you will be working with people who were not athletes as young, as I understood, you were athlete from the young age. Yeah. So when a person comes and was not an athlete, do we have somebody in this group that was not athlete and started to run later, like say in 20s, or not just running, some other sport can also be. Okay, just professionals. So maybe we can play a little bit with this idea. So what maybe if you are working with people, do you have any informations? What keeps them moving? Why they are coming to training?
For the company, for example?
Thank you. This was the only thing that I think Ignacy left out, huh? Yes, thank you. Anything else?
To feel better about themselves.
Good.
I think they breaking barriers because for the lot of people running half marathon in 3 hours is breaking barriers, and it's oh yeah, breaking barriers.
Okay. We will see. I have an experiment prepared to show you. They did it in Croatia, and it's a very good view why people do all kind of sports. So now we come a little bit to this part. I want to give you the wider look about the motivation and how to understand what people are wanting to achieve. So basically, motivation is motivation can increase how efficient you are, and motivation is like a drive. It takes you to action, and it encourages you. So sometimes when you are motivated, it's no problem to go to do sports to enjoy. Sometimes, of course, you all I think experienced it. You are not motivated, and what then? So let's see what we as coaches or ambassadors of healthy lifestyle or getting to move can do. So if we understand this, so before we get the motivation, we have to feel the need. We have to feel that something is missing. This is what need means. So when I'm hungry, I start thinking about what I will cook for the lunch. I think you all know this feeling. Before when you are not hungry, you're not thinking about food. When you start feeling something, you feel the need to eat, and then you are motivated to find the ingredients and cook the lunch. So when we feel the need, we feel the motivation, and then follows the behavior, and with this we go and to reach our goals. If we widen it a little bit, we have this sentence here that motives are all factors that stimulate and sustain our activity. This means this is needs, drives, goals, values, emotions, attitudes, interests, and habits. So it's even a little bit wider. But before the motivation, you have to know that there are some factors that will stimulate you to go and to start doing things in a direction, in a particular direction. So it's a process. Motivation is not, we describe it as a feeling, but basically it's a process. It's a process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. This is like one really hard definition, but I think it's good to understand it. In everyday terms, it means why a person does something. So the driving force behind the human actions is this question: why? Why are we doing something? So what moves people to take some action? What encourages people to choose health-oriented behaviors and not unhealthy ones? So why we go and move and not just stay at home? And what is the force that pushes people into the direction to improve their well-being and, of course, their happiness? Motivation has three components: activation, persistence, and intensity. This is the long description. Don't bother with that, but just so we understand, activation is the decision. So why I am doing something. Persistent is that you're doing things again and again and again, even if there are obstacles. You are persistent when you go to the run, even if it's raining outside. You wake up early and go for a run, even if it's so nice to stay in bed. This is persistent. And then it's intensity, it's the concentration and vigor that goes into pursuing your goals. let's say we have a runner who just goes and run a little bit. I'm feeling okay. At 20 minutes, it's okay. And then we have a runner like Ignacy here who go and want to push his borders further and further and further. So this is the intensity of our motivation. We also have a degree of motivation. So each of these components can impact whether you achieve your goal or not. Strong activation means that you are more likely to start pursuing a goal. And of course, on the other side, small activation means that maybe it means that it's more likely that you will not start to follow your goals. So persistence and intensity will determine if you keep working toward that goal and how much effort you put into reaching it. So you can have strong activation, but you don't put a lot of effort, and so on. So all three combinations are possible. Then we have two types of motivation. This is what basically all of you know. We have extrinsic and intrinsic. It's just one of the theories, but let's first stay on this one because it's easier to understand. So basically, it means that extrinsic motivation, it's something from the outside. It's something that you receive or get. So trophies, money, social recognition, even a praise. So when a coach says you are good, this is external motivation, extrinsic. And then we have intrinsic motivation. It arises from within the person. So we are talking here about a really small, gentle feeling of feeling good about yourself. So intrinsic, it's more gentle. You cannot feel it like that, like every day. You feel it more subtle in comparison to extrinsic motivation, which is very clear. So intrinsic motivation, you have to go a little bit, turn your focus inside yourself and ask yourself, what am I feeling? And if you think about it, you will find out that you can feel it a lot of times during the day, but it's a little bit more quiet. Let's say for me, it's very nice feeling when I sit in my car and I adjust the rear view mirrors. This is like a small feeling, but it's nice. So I sit there and adjust all the mirrors and I see behind very clearly. And I feel so good about myself. And so maybe try for your homework for the next few days where you can find these small intrinsic feelings that you did something and you feel gratification. So or maybe like on the slide it says you do a crossword puzzle, or if you're a student, when you do a task like mathematic task and you solve it and the result fits, and this is a very good feeling. So here is our study. They studied in Croatia. They studied, I think, almost 200 runners. About basically they were asking themselves about the gender differences. So they give them the questionnaire how motivated they are, and they found out that they all have high level of intrinsic motivation, but male runners in comparison to female runners are more motivated to run, to keep on running, to keep on moving, as was our first question, if they perceive that they are becoming more and more competent. And they feel more pressure to achieve result. So they have a plan, they see that they are becoming faster or they can run longer, and they want to see a good time at the end. And their orientation is more ego oriented. This means that they are more oriented on themselves, not so much on the group or social recognition, but on themselves. Female runners, they focus more on their personal skills, on their improvement, and to learn new things. The motives for male runners are competition, social recognition, approval, and for girls, it's weight control, even illness avoidance to be more healthy, body image, stress management, positive health influence, maintenance of mobility, and the sense of the group affiliation. So this is very interesting study done in our neighboring country. So what can we do to improve other people's motivation? First, we have to discuss goals. What are the things that are really important? As I said before, what matters to you? What do you need? If you become a runner, what do you fulfill with it? Then you have to break these goals into smaller, manageable steps. It's good that you have a good goal. I can have a goal to run a marathon, but if I don't run every week 40 to 60 kilometers, I cannot be a good I cannot enjoy the marathon run. I can do it, but not with that much enjoyment. So you have to break the goal into small, manageable steps and set your eyes on this first step. So of course you talk about your big goal going to some big race, but then you have to color it a little bit, cloud it a little bit so you don't see it all the time, and focus on the step of the next week or this month. How to improve your confidence? When you see that you are achieving these small steps, your confidence grows. This is why it's very important that you keep track of your sporting activities. So the sporting watch nowadays, it's a good tool to help you keep the score, how far and how much you run and what is your body score or whatever. So when you build up, when you are doing these small steps, you are becoming more and more competent, and you know that you believe in yourself that you will be able to achieve your goals. You have to remind yourself about your achievements daily, of course. So doubts will be arising all the time in our brains. All kind of questions are forming, and these are doubts. So when the doubts are coming and limiting our motivation, it's important that we focus on what we already achieved, not just forward. This is the moment when we see what we did. So how many weeks we are already training, what kind of heavy train practices did we do, and so on. Then we can also focus, of course, on the weak areas. So if you have one strong area and 5 weak areas, it's difficult to keep motivated. So if you focus on one weak area and then on a good area and on second and the third, this is how you build your feeling of competence. You're becoming more and more capable of doing a good training. So, and how to trick yourself to be motivated. I think here in this group, everybody is really motivated, but the runners, the recreational runners, the people that decide, okay, something needs to be changed, they are not naturally motivated to keep on. So what can you do? For example, you can act as if. This is a very old psychological technique. It's older than Sigmund Freud. It's one of the first techniques ever invented. So picture yourself, how would you feel if you would be motivated? So you sit on the couch and you feel unmotivated. You feel tired, you feel annoyed, you would rather watch movies all day. But then try and use your imagination and ask yourself, okay, if I was motivated, how would I feel and what would I be doing right now? Think, visualize, consider what you'll be wearing, how you would be thinking, what actions would you, so what would you do with your body? And then do these things for 3 to 5 minutes, and you will see that your motivation level will change. Something magical happens after 3 minutes. This is the technique that we suggest to people who have to start moving. Maybe they were depressed or maybe they were injured. So what to do? And we encourage them to just to put on your running shoes and then step outside. And then if you are still not motivated, go back. But most of people, when they put on their running shoes and they are outside, they decide to go at least 100 meters. So small baby steps is the key to start moving. What causes low motivation is, again, some beliefs that we have in our head. It's all or nothing thinking. So if you think that you must be absolutely perfect, so you have this idea in your head, or maybe you have a neighbor who runs all the time and it's super fit, and you picture yourself that you should be like that. It's all or nothing thinking, and it's totally unrealistic. Even if we ask people who are very motivated and are used to moving, of course they are feeling sometimes that, or they have some bad days, or their training is not done in a way that is written. So try and change in your head, these extreme views. So I have to be like this, like this, like this, and if I'm not okay. You can change this view. Just move your bar a little bit lower and try to fit here. It's easier, and it usually works. The second cause is that you believe in quick fixes. I think that we all have a problem now with advertisers who are selling to us magical pills. If we're sportists, every day I get in inbox some leaflet about super drink that will make me younger. And we believe it. We believe a little bit that, yes, if I do this, this will happen. No, unfortunately, it does not work that way. If you look at your life experiences, you will see that your goal is reached by small steps and in the long and longer time. It takes time to reach something. Then the third thing is idea that this one size fits all. So one program is good for everybody. So just if this method worked for my neighbor and for my friend, this should also work for me. It's totally untrue. Everybody is different, and every person needs a little different direction. So yes, it's good that we have a model, how to train, where to train, who to ask for help, but it's not in advance. We cannot say, yes, this will work for you. So every time, if you are coaching a little bit longer, you will understand this, that you have to be a little bit magician. So one person needs this kind of words and exercises, and another person needs something different. Okay, so here are some theories of motivation. This is just for if somebody is interested in, we will skip that one. Okay, so now it's time for you to work. We have this SMART technique. I'm sure that you heard of it. It says in acronym SMART how your goals should be set. So please, I need a volunteer, and we will be working on these SMART goals together.
Okay, I can be this volunteer.
Volunteer, thank you. So if I'm writing here, you see? Yes?
Yes.
You can see that, all right. Okay. So let's talk about one example.
So our goal must be specific, yeah?
Yes.
So
you can just say it and we will work with it together. And I encourage you, somebody else also, please join us. Help Ignacy build his goal in a good way.
okay, so it can be the maybe running Ljubljana marathon. So it's
Okay.
specific, I think.
This is very specific. The 42 kilometers.
Yeah.
Okay. This is in October, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So this is specific. I want to run the marathon in Ljubljana. Okay. How can we measure it? How you will know that you have achieved it? Is it measurable to run?
Yeah, and it's for me. It's I can do it, but for example, I maybe won't do it in less than 2 hours and 35 minutes because it's my personal beast. So
Okay, so we set a time to reach her. So let's say 2 hours 35.
okay, it's realistic and within your ability. So yes, I think I can achieve it, but I don't know how to say it because I have plan, I have schedule for it.
Okay, and you ran 2 hours and 40 minutes already, or are you somewhere in close?
Oh yeah, okay.
Do you have a time already set last year, let's say?
Yeah, it was similar to this time, so I think it's achieved for
like this. I already ran similar time. Okay. Is it relevant? Is this important to you to do it?
Yeah, it's important because I want to be better and better, and I want to I want to be the best in my group in my university.
Okay. Okay.
And the last one, I think it's easy because the marathon is in October, so
So the rest one is easy. Okay. This was super easy. So if we have the running goal, everything is easy. Now let's imagine that you have a client who did not run, and he comes and say, I want to run 42 kilometers in October. And you have this smart technique. What would you do with this person?
okay. So if he also wants to run marathon, yeah, yes. So S is easy because it's also marathon, and for other one I think in M we can give just complete the marathon. For example, all time running without stopping, maybe.
Okay, but let's okay, let's go to A. Is it achievable? So you never ran before, you have 6 months. Now it's 5 already, or
if this person is young and make some sports before, I
okay.
think yes. But
Okay, so
if this
it's a
person
young person is athletic. So yes, let's say
so I think it's we can do it. We can do it. We good schedule 6 months. It's enough. It's maybe not very good time, but maybe he have good predisposition.
Let's say that it has, but maybe we can switch it maybe to walk run, not just running without stopping, maybe just run walk.
Yes, yes.
So maybe here we say run walk.
But in this situation, in my opinion, better is half marathon. But if this client want much marathon, I think we can fix it.
We are practicing how to use this technique with the person. So if we say, okay, you have this goal, let's see, is it achievable? We can measure it. Okay, you want to run the whole distance, it's good, but is it achievable? Is it realistic and within your ability? This is the most important question. So if you never ran before, to run 4, 5, 6 hours, it's very difficult. So if you have a goal just to achieve it, you can adjust the goal also that it's reachable in a few, you can change it a little bit. So, okay, you can go for a short distance or you can stay on this distance, but you have to change the tactics. And you have to also practice it. And then there is another very, really important question. Is this goal, why? Why is this goal important to you? Why would be a goal to run the whole marathon really important for this person?
Okay, so it's, I don't know what he...
Maybe he promised his friend, maybe he has a bet.
Oh, maybe.
Let's say that he's young adult and has a small baby at home. And this means that every Saturday he will be doing his long run and he will not be with his family.
Oh, maybe it's good, I think. Oh yes, I think it's good. It's good.
Yeah, no, but really it's important that it's called the ecology of the goal. So we have this goal. Why are we doing it? Because if you remember the first slides, you have to feel the need to do it. So you have to have some motivation. So if you have extrinsic motivation, like I have a bet with a friend or I promised my father, it's one thing. The other thing is intrinsic motivation. So why am I doing it? How will I feel when I'm over the line or over the finish line? We can see people crying when they finish. They go over the finish line of the marathon because it's so important to them. And when we coach them, or we mentor them, it's really important that we know the reason. And if the reason is bad, maybe it's not that good reason. But to join the friend or run for some community or do some good work with that, it's a good decision. So talk to people, to the persons that you work with about why do you want to do it? Why is this goal important to you? So let's say that he's raising money for poor children. Okay, this is let's say one reason why. And then we have this time-bound step. It's here, it's very clear. You have a date. You can also have a plan B in this section. So if you're not in the shape until the October, you can also move and find a race in November or so on. So D is usually okay with this kind of athletic goals. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your help. Maybe somebody else has some idea, question. Maybe you want to work on your goal. I hope you are not sleeping, everybody. Okay. Okay, so we have this goal and we view this goal via a smart technique. Okay, so here is again a little bit about how to question yourself about your goals. So how to build lasting motivation and how to think about motivation. So if we go back to this marathon training, what is your main reason for setting this goal? Ignacy, can you tell us again why? What is your reason for wanting to run this fast marathon?
Well, I'm lost because I was making my notes.
What is your reason for setting this goal? Why do you want to run so fast? It's a difficult task.
For me,
Yeah.
okay. I think the running is a really big part of my life, and I want to be always better than the previous me. So, and I spend a lot of time on training, and sometimes I'm not going to the some meeting with friends or something like that because I might make my training. So I want to have some not goals. No, you know,
what
yes.
kind of motivation is this? That you even skip meetings with friends so that you can train. What kind of motivation is this? Which type?
Internal, I think.
Yes. It's more physical or it's more social?
I think physical.
So to feel that you can do, that you are strong, that you are fast.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe some social recognition?
Maybe. No, yes, of course. Of course. I think it's always mixed.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry that I'm just putting you out. You're the only one alive here in this session. So
no,
well, Tina, sorry to interrupt. If you read the chat, there's a question by Milos.
Okay. Can you read it? I don't see the chat because I hide it. I have a small computer.
I have a question about mentally and motivation during races running. Based on my experience during half marathon mountain race, I was competing for the best performance, but mentally I dropped out of the race between kilometers 16 and 18. My pace slowed significantly and I lost the motivation to keep pushing at a high intensity. How can we work on improving mental resilience in such moments?
Okay. Okay, this is the question of a very serious runner. It's also a question that I get a lot of times. So when you feel tired, because at the 16-kilometer you are tired, it's it. So what to do with your mind? Maybe your mind tells you to slow down. You are tired and you want to do something else, and then you lose motivation. You call it like I lose motivation because my pace slows. So maybe we can help ourselves to go to see the big picture. So why am I running, particularly here? What is my idea of running marathon? We have a lot of memes on the internet which says, so when you finish the marathon, you say I will not be doing it again, and then when you come home you're already applying for that marathon. So here is the idea, what to think about when your pace drops and you are tired. Ask yourself, why am I here? And maybe, do I enjoy running? And did I enjoy my trainings? And usually people are happy on the practices, on the trainings. And if you go into that mode, to that feeling, this will lift your pace again to your plan. This is the psychological view. Of course, you have to know that before you start thinking that you have a mental problem when you slow the pace, before that, you have to be sure that you practice it a lot, enough, that you have enough of training that you are able to keep that pace. So maybe you want to run a marathon under 4 hours, but you never train for this speed. This is impossible. your pace will fall down. And every marathon runner knows that the marathon is won or lost in the second half, or maybe even last third, the third of the marathon. So this is when you are becoming tired, and you sometimes it's not just head. Not is everything is in the head. You have to be sure that you made your training in the right way. Okay, I hope I answered it. But basically, to keep pushing, you have to find your happiness, to be happy, to enjoy what you are doing, and be in the moment. It's a little bit used word, but to stay in the moment, to focus on your pace, on your strength, on your cadence, on your breathing, that usually helps. So maybe maybe we can say you go out of your head into your body, or some sportists also recommend that you think about things that are outside. Count the trees, look at the people who are cheering you, or maybe focus on the next turn in the road or something like that. Okay, I hope I answered it. Do you have any other questions? Okay. If you go back, so to what to do on the training, how to motivate ourselves to practice, we can also ask yourselves what challenges might get in your way. It's really important to think about the obstacles, to know how you will tackle them when they will arise. So let's say if you are also working and training, there of course will be weeks when you will have a lot of work and you will be tired when you come home. So how to find the so you prepare in advance how you will challenge that. So you will be working at 5 until 5 or 6 o'clock, and then it's dark outside. So how to challenge yourself, how to motivate yourself to go out even on that bad and sad days. So how will you keep on track? It's usually there are training diaries, smartwatches, social connections. So have a training buddy. It's a very good solve that you don't skip your practices. And of course, who can support you in achieving the goal? It's we are a social animals, so we really need social recognition and to see that our goal is also shared with others. So if you're in a running group, it's a good way to support each other. I think this idea of having student runs, so I have similar minded and similar age grouped people, and I can connect with them through social media or on this kind of lectures or running group. This is your support groups, and you will be more likely to achieve the goal that you set, even if the goal is really, really difficult. Okay, now step into the mentorship mindset. If I understood correctly, you will be mentoring other students, yes?
Yeah, that's an idea. And our students, selected students, shall motivate and invite colleagues from the
Can we
university to join trainings and to train and participate with trainings for European student runners.
So all participants are already training, and they will have other students to join them.
In that way, but it's different from country to country, from case to case, and some of the participating students are already well prepared athletes and runners, and some will needed to upgrade their running skills.
Okay. Can we go into rooms? Do we have a possibility to go into Zoom rooms?
Not sure about that.
Can you maybe
yeah.
see if you can put and maybe then it's it's and then we do have, if we would have 2 rooms and each room would write this one. So how you plan to motivate a friend or the runner who come to your group? If it's not possible, we will just do it together.
Yeah, maybe it would be better to do it together. Not maybe as a host, Marucho will be able to do this, but not sure. So, but we are not
Okay.
together right now. So, maybe Tina, we do it together.
Okay, we can do it together. So, everybody, now tell me one word or one sentence, and I will write it here. So at the end, we have a script, how we will motivate our friends and participants. Ignacy has to be quiet now, so don't help them. Somebody
They will
else.
feel better.
Hmm?
They will feel better. They will get
if you
more
start.
fit,
Okay, then you
healthier.
start. Okay. Don't be shy.
So maybe, I don't know if it's a good example, but if different people are doing it, that means it is doable, and every elite runner has had to had his beginning, so everyone was at some point in your place.
Oh, great. So it is doable. I will write it like that. Or maybe even elite athletes were on this point somewhere, so sometimes on. Thank you, Veronica.
Slowly but surely.
Great. I don't know how to write it.
SHOURLEY, meni se zdi, da je tako.
Sureli. Okay.
Tako, okay.
Thank you, Google.
Because I think a lot of people are afraid to apply into a running group or something like that because they are afraid that they run too slow. And they don't know that we actually have some groups that are running in a very slow pace and you can build the pace up.
Okay, thank you. This is really, really important. A lot of times people don't join groups because or competitions because they say we will be last, I will be the last, I will be the slowest, and so on. So try first, like this.
Yeah, maybe also that people will be respected for just trying. Like I've never seen somebody like being mocked for not being too fast. So usually it's like being there is like maybe like the Olympic motto.
Yes, it's also important. Like this.
Yes.
What is the Olympic motto? It's not. It's higher, better, but not. I'm not. I think you meant the other one.
Stronger.
What?
Higher, stronger, and better. Titius, Altius, Fortius.
Yes, but this is not the one that I think.
It's important to participate, not to win.
Yes, thank you. Not to win. Yes.
I have another one. I think it's a good one. So 21 kilometers is 21 kilometers no matter the time.
Okay.
So it's similar to running fast or running slow, but 21 is 21.
Yes. And you can say I ran 21. No, you don't have to tell the time to the people that.
Oh, I did a half marathon.
Yes.
Or for example, that you are doing it for yourself, hopefully not for the audience.
Great.
Maybe also after a training session, saying things like "see you again," just to acknowledge them coming and like welcoming them for the next session. I don't know how to say.
Okay, I will write it and maybe we get a better idea. You see you again. You.
Maybe maybe we could also highlight how it affects your life otherwise, so like better mood, being more healthy.
Great.
You can eat more because you will be tired and you can eat more.
Okay, we know it, but we will not write it because it's
yeah.
I'm here for the cake and so on, but we should not have food for the reward. So
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
in the group.
I agree with that.
But you will look better after the training. Something like that, something on the body image, maybe.
Yeah, your body will adapt, or your body will get stronger.
Is stronger, huh?
Yeah.
Every day.
Or for example, if you are going to sign up for a race, that you will have a good memories.
Some good stories to tell your grandchildren when you are too old to run. It's from a book, I think, from a book of one ultra marathon runner. They asked him why is he doing ultras. It's 100, 200 kilometers, crazy things, multi-day races. And he said that when I will not be able to move, I will have stories to tell. Okay. Any other ideas? Maybe we have some ideas in the direction if somebody starts and then stops, how to invite them to come back. Because in the beginning, we are usually very highly motivated, but then with time, the motivation drops.
Try to remind him of what he got him into running. Like, so, like, why did he start in the first place and the positive things that he learned through his start. And just ask him to try again, and then the motivation will come.
Okay, right. Like this.
Yeah, just give it another go.
Thank you. Okay, Ignacy, now you can say one sentence.
I want to say that about healthy lifestyle, because I think is one of the most important, and maybe it's not we don't see now this healthy goods from healthy lifestyle, but when we will be old, it will be we can see it very good.
So healthy lifestyle is important for the future.
Yes.
Ages. Like this. Okay. So you will get these slides, and if you have any other ideas, you feel free to fill them in. Okay, so thank you. I hope that something was useful. Did you get something for yourself?
Yeah, most definitely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to emphasize something? What was useful? What did you hear? Maybe I can go back and, or you have any questions about it? I can answer.
Yeah, no question, but I think like the goal splitting was particularly useful for me.
Okay. Thank you. So for now, I would invite you to try this on yourselves, because if you do things, then you have more credit when you are trying to motivate others. So feel free to use all kinds of techniques, try different things, think about what motivates you, because then you will be more understanding towards others. And I think that your clients, your runners will be drawn to you, because you will be living what you are saying to them. Okay, so this is what I prepared. Alesh, do we need something else?
Well, if there are no any other questions, that's it, and really nice topic and presentation. So thanks a lot, Tina. Yeah, well, it is important to stay motivated, not to quit. And even though we know that sometimes students have a lot of tasks, obligations, and they need to study, this is the first priority. Sure, you need some recreation and sport, and to prepare yourself for a marathon, it's important task. So first of all, you should use those, let's say, instructions and guidelines for yourself. And I hope you will be also successful with motivating your colleagues to be active. And that's the important part, where your tasks are on your local level. And we will continue tomorrow with our presentations, and we will talk about the techniques, running techniques. And I think there will be quite some important new skills and knowledge that they achieved, and I hope it will be useful. And Tina, thanks a lot, really, once more, for helping us with presentations, and that we will continue with our program of the Runners4All project.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. If anybody has any questions, you can direct them to me if they need any help.
Yeah, of course, we will ask you for your presentation, which we will share with all participants, and even with those who didn't participate today. They will be able to follow up the recorded session. And we will continue, and if we will have some questions, we will ask you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot also to all others that participated until the end of the presentations, and see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Bye-bye. Yeah, sure.
I have a question for you regarding the registration of the participants for the event. So will it be possible to register as a group, or does every participant has to register individually?
Well, it's individually. You received special codes that are prepared for each associate partner, and we will prepare really detailed information about that. But in any case, every participant that receives this code then use it and must enter application directly individually. It's important because they take some options that we can use data and results, and also some other items like photo gallery, etc. And yeah, this is why they need to do it by themselves.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine, but I didn't catch the first part. Should we have already received the code, or will the code be sent in the future?
Well, Marusha will help me with this, but if I'm correct, all the partners already should receive the codes. If they didn't, they were not in contact with us yet, and we need to do this as soon as possible.
Okay, because I was asked about that, and I think like the German team doesn't have the code yet.
I will check what's going on with the codes, and I'll make sure that you'll receive them. There are two ways. Either the partner does the enlistment for all the participants, but you have to have the data for each specific runner who is going to attend the marathon. I don't know which way the partner is going to do that. Or the other way is that they will be sending you those specific codes and you will do that on your own. Anyhow, that code enables you to use that lower price for the marathon.
Okay, but if I got it right, there is a possibility for a group registration, right? So
yes, we do have group
all
registrations. Yes, we can. So the partner, the umbrella partner can do that as a group, of course, but the data for each participant has to be put in.
All right.
All the specific data has to be put in.
And
do
also
you have a list of all the data?
Sorry, Jan, to interrupt.
Sorry?
And they also need to agree and confirm the use of personal data in GDPR.
Yes.
So those are specifics. Absolutely. In this case, you have a kind of, let's say, authority to enter their application. But you need to already to have in advance all those data. So it's a little of additional task for you, but it's up to you to decide. And with our colleagues from Germany, we are just in the final arrangement of the agreement. And I'm sure that after this, maybe even this week, we can also see if we already sent codes. If not, they will receive it. It's 200 codes per partner.
All right, perfect. So one last question. Every participant from our team will be able to choose their distance that they are competing in individually,
yes.
right? So
yes.
All right. So 10
yes,
kilometers, half marathon.
You can choose 10, 21, or 42.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's all from me.
You're welcome. And if you have any questions, just write an email and we'll sort it out. No problem.
Will do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And we will also wrap up all those materials and presentations from the workshops. Also put together all, let's say, kind of guidelines for you, students that should be mentored to others, and how to collect data. Some forms are going to be prepared, how to collect data, and to share with us also some photos and the info. It will be also important to have details about the participants, since we want to send to you t-shirts which we prepared specific for this project, and all those who are going to be actively involved, in your case your students from your country, you will invite them to, let's say, first kind of introductional workshop or a short presentation, and they will give you their data, t-shirt sizes, and we will then send directly to you with post delivery. So we'll receive this already before well, actually as soon as possible, but before, let's say, summer starts, and then they will be able to train in these t-shirts and use them for the preparation.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, any other questions, maybe? Okay, so then see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Thanks, see you, bye.
Take care. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Take
Bye.
care.